What's up, everyone? It's GameFace episode 112 on Sifted Games, our last regular episode of the year. Can't believe the year's over, man. Holy cow, has it been a crazy roller coaster ride over the last 12 months.
It's over. It feels like 30 years have gone by.
I think about all the stuff I've done to try to keep Sifted going in the last 12 months. It's like mind-blowing how many pivots we've done. But here we are. We've made it through the entire year, and a lot of that is thanks to you guys. And right off the top of the show, I want to mention Patreon has undergone some changes, and some people have been asking me to kind of comment on my perspective on the changes that it's made. First of all, basically what Patreon has done is it has passed on the transaction fees to patrons. In the past, you would pledge $1, and the creators would lose the fees. So say they charge 35 cents per transaction, I would lose that 35 cents. What Patreon is doing now is it's charging that 35 cents to the patrons.
So they're paying $1.35 now instead?
To give $1. Yeah, and it's not that big of a deal for people who are contributing more than $1. But for people who are only contributing $1, it's a pretty big deal because it's like a 30% increase over what they were giving before.
35%.
Right, to just give $1. And so we have seen actually already some fall off from our $1 patrons. People have been asking me kind of what's my take on it. Well, the first thing I want to say is that Patreon did not reach out to the creators at all for any kind of input. And we're pretty lucky. We have what's called like a Patreon ambassador. We have a person who is at Patreon just for us, who we can send out emails to and ask questions from. And I have a pretty good relationship with our ambassador, and I never got an email from her or anything about this. It just kind of popped up out of nowhere. So they didn't ask the creators. And I think if you ask any creator on Patreon what they would want to absorb the fees. We've only been on for a couple months, but already...
You create a barrier of entry to someone thinking about giving you money.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already used to losing that money. And it's kind of the way the system's been all along. And I think one of the things, too, is that... once you set something up a certain way and then you change it, there's always going to be a brushback.
Yeah, and it's probably not a coincidence that this came on the heels of the valuation of Patreon at $500 million.
Yeah.
So off of it, so I think they make like $8 million a year.
Yeah.
But somehow they're worth that much.
Yeah, I don't know where that valuation comes from, but
it comes from Silicon Valley, my friend, where things are worth what you want them to be.
Yeah, I guess so.
Until they're not.
Yeah, exactly. But I do want you guys to know that I want to go on the record as saying I do not support this. I'm not a fan of you guys having to pay the Patreon fees. I'm sorry. Like I said, they didn't ask us for any input on this, and I apologize. And I understand if maybe some of the people who are paying the lower amounts want to drop. There's really nothing I can do about it. I did send an email to our ambassador and complained about it, but I think that's pretty much all I can do. I've not heard back from her. And we have lost value on our Patreon total just since this was announced. So it is what it is. I try to not get stressed out over things I have no control over. And sadly, even though I'm a company working with Patreon, I really have no control over this at all. I'm hoping that as time goes and people get used to the new practices, that maybe people will come back. I mean, it is 30 cents ultimately. I think for the smaller patrons, people who aren't giving a lot, it seems like a lot because they're like, oh my gosh, I was giving $1. Now I have to give way more than I was giving. Relatively speaking, is it really all that much? I don't know. We'll see. I'm assuming Patreon ran the data on this. Again, I don't know. Because they didn't even send out an email to us telling us of the change.
Yeah, it just happened.
Yeah, they never sent out an email explaining why they did it or that it was coming. Like literally, they flipped the switch and just like that, that's what was happening. So, I don't know. It's a new frontier for us, so maybe it's not as big a deal, but people who have been on Patreon now for years and years, I'm sure it's like a massive deal for them. And there are a lot of Patreon accounts out there that have a ton of people who give just $1. And for us, I think we only have like 60 or 70 people who are just giving $1. So hopefully it doesn't impact us too much, or anyone else for that matter. Hopefully people will kind of get over the hump with it and they'll be cool with it. So one other thing I wanted to mention is this week, Sifted passed the 50,000 pieces of curated content barrier. 50,000 pieces of content right now are being sifted on Sifted every time you open up your Sift. That is a testament to the back end that Brent Phillips built for the site. It hasn't buckled, and it's still going with 50K. It's pretty impressive what the site is doing on the back end, taking all that information. It's not just that there's 50 pieces of content. It's that for each piece of content, there's like 20 tags that are all feeding into a database and working with the algorithm. It's pretty amazing, but a huge milestone for us. So it took us about 2.5 years to get to 50,000 pieces of content. A human being added every single one of those. A human being went in, looked at that content, wrote a blurb, tagged it all, rated it, and posted it to the site. So I'm really, really proud that we've made it to 50,000. I didn't know if we'd ever make it, particularly earlier this year with everything that was going on with the site. So thank you guys once again as our patrons and our supporters and our subscribers on Sifted. We appreciate it so much. But with that, it's time to get on with the show. So our first topic this week is PSX. And one of the Patreon rewards on our Patreon is a reward called GameFace Guest. And to become a GameFace guest, you have to give $100 or more per month. So it's one of our very highest tiers. And we appreciate those people very, very much who contribute that amount. We've had a GameFace guest before. They didn't want to come on the show live. They just gave us a question to answer. But this week, we do have live via Skype one of our patrons who is here to talk about PSX. It's Jesper. Jesper is going to give us about 5 minutes of his take on PSX. And then Matt and I are going to pick up the conversation based upon some of the stuff that he said. So, Jesper, go for it, brother.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Matt. Hello, Sifters. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Sincerely, thank you for being on the show. I'm deeply honored. So I watched PSX through the archive this morning. And my thoughts comes from the perspective of a PC gamer, primarily. So take that in consideration. So the first thing that struck me was that it was a really casual setting. Wasn't what I expected. Maybe I hadn't kept in the loop of what I should be expecting, but yeah. And the first thing that took my notice was the Wipeout VR segment, which I thought, well, that's a vomit comet. Would like to try it out, but don't have any PlayStation VR, unfortunately. And then Corey Balrog and God of War 4, which was a really interesting tidbit. The most surprising thing is that the game is about 25 to 30 hours long, so that looks to be a treat. Because even though I'm a PC gamer, I have played God of War 1, 2, and 3, and I really liked it for their mythological setting. So really looking forward to God of War 4 whenever it's released, if they can get it out. Then it was Detroit Become Human, and well, I do like the investigation part and picking up clues and looking for information. I didn't like the how should I put it? I didn't like the fact that they told the vital information for you. So, for instance, in the demo, there was a part where they looked at the gamepad or some kind of iPad or whatever, and they saw the price for a new Android model, and it said the deviant was about to be replaced. I thought it would have been more interesting if you had to make that kind of puzzle yourself without them explicitly telling you what telling you how it worked out. So kind of more mysteries and make you figure things out. Then I like Dreams. It was a long time we saw that, and it looked kind of shoddy in the back. I thought it looked kind of janky, but now I'm really excited for it. It looked really, really good and really professional, and kind of the imagination you can kind of produce with it is just going to be stellar. Might actually going to pick that up just to experience all the crazy, innovative, creative ways people will express themselves. And then obviously it was Death Stranding. And the thing that I picked out of that was that when Mark Cerny said that you start to understand it after playing it for 4 to 5 hours, which to me says that the game must be pretty quite long in development, since you can obviously play it to get some understanding of it. So maybe it's not that far off as we might expect. I always thought it would be like a 2020 game, but might be a 2019 game instead. In conclusion, I would say that, you can't have a Sony production without some technical difficulties. There was some kind of out of focus cameras and whatnot, and there was a lot of strange silence, and yeah. And I would finish on, and this is kind of maybe I'm making a mountain of a molehill, but the fact that they kept saying to Corey Balrog, go back and work on your game. I mean, it was on the evening, and the man have a life. The game, we can wait. So that's all my thoughts on PSX. Back to you, Matt and Shane. Thank you.
Wow. Thanks, Jesper. That was amazing, man. You really kind of summed up the whole thing. Matt, he was saying Death Stranding in 2019. Do you think that's possible?
No.
But,
they've said it's like 20% complete. For Kojima, that might as well mean you're on the moon at this point. I don't know. We'll get to Death Stranding.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in a bit.
I think you have that slotted under the Game Awards section of the show.
Yeah.
But, it's they made us watch that thing twice. But if you watch Game Awards and this, they ran the same trailer. It was nice to see Kojima there with everybody. But and I agree.
In his little get up, he had the little robot, whatever that thing is.
It's looks like a warning system for whatever those invisible things are.
Yeah.
And I agree that like them telling Corey to go back and work on the game was felt a little weird. I mean, first let's just kind of talk about PSX baseline. Yeah.
Did it meet your expectations? Because to me, I know Sony had kind of put out there, hey, this isn't really a press conference, blah, blah, blah. Even knowing that, it was still pretty disappointing to me. I mean, there was really...
This is exactly what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I expected
100%.
more.
I mean,
and especially once it started.
I didn't necessarily expect Greg Miller lambasting Shu on a couch, but
I stopped watching once the proper thing ended.
Okay, they did a demo of Concrete Genie and some stuff. It was pretty cool, but no, that's exactly what I thought it was going to be. We're going to go a little bit of Dreams footage. We're going to talk about the games that are already announced. Maybe get some day, not actual day and date, but we got Shu said Days Gone is 2018, which I think is the first time we've even got a year out of that thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's exactly what I thought it was going to be. Just they'd blown their wad in Paris to try to head off the Xbox One X at the pass, and so. This is, and again, this is not really the centerpiece of the PSX. PSX is for going, being on the floor and seeing stuff.
Playing the games, really.
Playing the games, climbing the Colossus statue and stabbing it and doing all the, running around, the photo stuff at the God of War booth. That all looks really cool. If you're there, which I am not, and I don't care to be, really. But, it's a fan celebration, and, it's not really a place to, it has been.
It has been. I think that's a problem. It set a precedent before.
But they told you. Yeah, Klepek told us 2 months ago, basically, everything, a lot of stuff either got moved up or was already planned to be at Paris, and this is just sort of, more information, and yeah, it wasn't exactly riveting, but it was cool. It was, it was nice to see the developers kind of out and hanging around and forming kind of this Avengers squad up on the stage, and I was happy to see Siobhan, who I know from Media Molecule. She's cool, and it's nice to see them finally getting to talk about that game. That game looks good. Well, it looks interesting. I don't really know what I'm looking at most of the time with it, but if they're using the same level of flexibility as the tools in Little Big Planet, then it could be a pretty interesting thing.
Let's run through a couple things here before we move on. Medieval was really the biggest announcement from the event.
Yeah.
And I say that with tongue in cheek because
I guess
Medieval was never really a big game.
No. I mean, I guess you could have been. You could have been Blasto and been less interesting, I guess. But
I think I would rather have Glover. Remember Glover?
Oh, I remember Glover.
3D platformer. The main character is a glove.
Magic glove.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're remastering Medieval for PS4. I think that's kind of a, oh my gosh, look what Crash Bandicoot did kind of thing. Where they're like, hey, maybe these old properties, people have more nostalgia for them than we thought.
Yeah, that's not really the one I would have picked, though.
Me
I would
either.
have gone Spyro, or a lot of people wanted Crash Team Racing, which strikes me as crazy, but okay. Continuing the Crash train would not necessarily be a bad decision.
There's
I would
really
think.
not a great kart racing game on PS4, though.
No.
There's a couple decent ones, but...
Well, we're still waiting for Uncharted kart racing. I think.
Yeah.
It's overdue. But
I think the Medieval announcement, though, kind of speaks to something I've talked about on the show several times before, and that is that if you really kind of look at Sony's back catalog of first-party stuff from the PS1 and PS2 era, it's not amazing.
No.
Really, the PS3 era is where Sony really started to pour resources into its first-party games for exclusives.
Yeah, because before that, it was basically like a lot of the good exclusives on PlayStation 2 were because PlayStation 2 was the only game
Was
in town.
dominant, yeah. And it's third-party stuff.
Yeah, and like I would like to see, HD remasters of the Maximo games.
Yeah.
But those aren't Sony produced. They're not.
Yep.
That's a Capcom. That's up to Capcom, and you just can't tell what the hell Capcom's doing anymore.
And I think that's another reason why it may be difficult for us to ever see like a PS1 Mini, because ultimately most of the games for that are going to have to be licensed, because Sony just didn't have a really good first-party output back then. And so I think that might be one roadblock for kind of a PS1 Micro or whatever.
And there's a lot of the biggest PS1 games I think are not holding up so well anymore. Like I don't know if you really want to go back and see what those really look like anymore. And then
I think nostalgia clouds the memory a little bit.
And the
in
big
a lot of
stuff.
cases.
I mean, I pulled all my PS1 games out of storage now. After I moved, I have room to store them, to put them on shelves, and I got a lot of them, and I'm looking at them. I'm just like, man. I'm looking at the backs of them, and I'm just like, that's a character. Okay, that's supposed to be Bruce Willis. All right, sure. And like you've got stuff like like I think people would say no PS1 Mini would be complete without like Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, and Metal Gear Solid.
And Metal Gear, and it's not really. Who knows if you can even get Konami to call you back?
I know. They're like, oh, you want to talk about consoles?
Yeah. So, and like, Square doesn't really have a lot of incentive to re-release Final Fantasy VII again. They've already got it up.
I mean, why would it let Sony do that when it can do it
They've already
itself?
got it up on PSN. They've got it up on Steam.
Right.
I think Sony's way more interested in having like the PS1 Classic section on their own systems and keeping you in that garden, rather than like selling you a little mini gray box.
Yep. And so Jesper talked about Wipeout VR, called it a vomit comet, which for me, guaranteed vomit comet.
Yeah, I saw some people.
For people who can handle it, though, it may be awesome. I mean,
yeah, but I saw people angry about that.
Why?
They said that on Twitter. It's like either that they thought either they were the ones who were going to vomit and they felt he was making fun of them, or they were like, why are there VR advocates? And they're like, why would you emphasize the main problem of VR? By saying that, and I'm just like, man,
everybody knows.
Yeah, everybody knows, and man, I know people who get dizzy playing Wipeout on a normal screen.
Right? Yeah, in 2D.
He's not wrong. Like, you should be happy that they didn't decide that was a reason not to make it.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a free update too if you already own it.
I'll never be able to play it. I'm happy for people who will be able to play it. I think it will be absolutely incredible.
I think once again, PlayStation VR really is showing that it has the most interesting library.
Oh yeah,
especially upcoming. Like they are making the best games.
Well, they sold. We found out this week it sold 2 million.
Yeah,
that's like double what I thought it had sold. So it's doing pretty well.
Much more than I expected.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, someone who does get ill from VR, the last Guardian VR experience was probably the biggest VR announcement for me at PSX, because I can't really handle movement in VR games. And you're seeing some footage here. It looks like it's pretty much one of those you just sit there and then Trico comes up and...
Yeah, I think it's like that first room, basically, a little bit. Like,
it's free. It's coming out December 12th. It's Sony's Christmas gift to
imagine he walks around, he probably throw barrels at him. And,
I mean, just to have Trico...
Solve a minor puzzle, and there you go.
Yeah. Just to have Trico that close, though, in VR, that's pretty awesome. Granted,
mildly terrifying.
Right. Granted, it's one of those things that you do once...
Yeah.
And then after that...
But that kind of gives me hope that they might do something like that to go along with the Shadow of the Colossus remake.
Yeah.
Which, that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Like, also probably nausea-inducing for a lot of people. But just to be... Not as... climbing the thing would probably be a little crazy.
That would be awesome, dude.
It'd be great. Like, having
it would be so awesome.
But, like, just standing there and seeing it.
Yeah, and just looking up and being like, oh my, and getting that sense of scale that you don't get in 2D. And then, first of all, I think Jesper did a great job of summing up the whole thing. He kind of hit all the points for us. God of War, 25 to 30 hours long. That I was surprised by that because
I think I was expecting that to be like 10 hours.
I mean, typically God of War games are 10 to 15,
yeah.
and even those are long.
I mean, this is a different, obviously very different thing, but like it's more of a Tomb Raider thing. But even the first Tomb Raider was like 10, 15 maximum. Yeah. And like I guess I was kind of expecting them because it's their first foray into this sort of format to kind of take it easy, but they don't seem to be doing that.
Yeah, I was really surprised to hear that, and I agree with him too when he said that he was kind of put off by so many people going at Cory Barlog and saying, "Why, go back?" Even if it was kind of tongue-in-cheek or whatever.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's like...
Things got a little combative on the stage.
What happened
where he started going back and forth and was like, oh, well, you got 7 years to make your game. I'm at like 4.5. And they're like, go back and finish your game, Cory. Like, I just don't feel like stuff like that needs to be displayed in front of fans.
That's like a pretty common sort of industry. If you're at a bar with these guys, they'll be... developers will make fun of each other like that. But... actually, I think my favorite of all time was one of the first GDC awards I ever went to. Was one of the I think it was best game. The achievement in gameplay was presented by Seamus, and I think it was Todd Howard. I might be wrong, but I think it was Todd Howard, and it's like best achievement in gameplay goes, and Todd or whoever was next to him opened the envelope, goes, Trespasser, and Seamus Blackley just puts him in a headlock, like because Seamus made Trespasser, that Jurassic Park game, which is famously a massive bomb and like didn't work properly. But like, it's like every once in a while you'll see people just bring up, it's a little bit like that scene in Jay and Silent Bob where Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are arguing, and Matt Damon's like, yeah, and then sometimes you do reindeer games, and like, but like if you just sort of display that like on stage like that, it can feel a little weird. And I thought Greg Miller's thing got a little bit like that too, when he's like confronting Shu about when release dates are or when he's doing.
I didn't watch
and I'm sure that was part of the plan. It was part of the show to kind of like show that like, yeah, we're not afraid. Our head guys are not afraid to get down with it and like all that stuff. But it just sort of felt like, I don't know.
That felt a little scripted. I only watched the first part with Sean, and that felt a little scripted to me.
Yeah, I watched the whole thing. I mean, I was doing other things as well. I wasn't like just glued to the screen.
Yeah.
But like, I kept it on and just sort of had it there, and it was fine. It was like a nice little sort of chill out stream. But if you were expecting it to be E3 Part 2, yeah, this was a letdown.
Are you surprised we got no new footage or a release date for God of War?
No,
because I really thought we'd get one of those. I mean, look, if God of War is a 25 to 30 hour game and it's coming out next year, presumably in the first half of the year,
they don't have time.
They should be able to show something.
No, they shouldn't. They should be hard at work trying to finish it. They don't have time to make a little like demo.
I mean, at Paris Games Week, they literally showed 45 seconds of new footage.
Yeah, well, they got their heads down. It's crunch time.
They could have put something together pretty.
No, they couldn't. You can't spare people to like be doing some demo thing for this game. Everybody already knows and is anticipating and is coming out in a few months. Like they have to be working on the game. Like I understand that completely. I mean, the only thing
they could have put out another 1 minute or 2 minute snippet of gameplay very easily.
That takes a lot more work than you might think.
Remember the Paris Games Week? It was just 40 seconds of the pair walking into a room, an enemy leaving the room, and then him killing 3 enemies. They very easily could have captured that and put it in the show. They didn't have to play it live. They could have just captured it and put it in the show. I was disappointed. I didn't expect a release date, but I definitely expected at least another snippet of gameplay.
I figured this was all going to be working with stuff they already had. I mean, I think they're lucky they even got Cory out there, and this probably only happened because the game's being made, 6 miles, or 30 miles north.
It's not that I'm worried about the game.
This is in Anaheim,
the game looks
right?
freaking awesome. Yeah, it's in Anaheim. The game looks awesome. Like, I'm not worried about it. I would just selfishly would have liked to seen a little bit more of it.
I didn't expect to see anything new from anything except Dreams.
Yep.
Because we haven't seen anything from Dreams in forever.
And that segues nicely. That's what we're going to talk about next. So Dreams, we haven't seen it in
couple of years.
Well,
right?
I mean, they were doing
They've mentioned it.
Well, they were doing live streams for a while. Like, literally, like, every week.
But everybody seems to have forgotten that.
They were so granular, though. It's like, hey, here we're going to show you, we're going to spend an hour showing you how to make a hat.
Right.
Like, that was the type of stuff they were doing on their streams, so you weren't seeing the whole project. You couldn't see the forest for the trees, so to speak.
Yeah, we still don't really fully have a inner working knowledge of how this functions, but we've at least seen it moving and what it is. And Siobhan talked a little bit about what the campaign is. It's like 3 different like kind of environments. There's the noir environment and the weird like terrifying bear environment, and it's real trippy, and I do like what I'm seeing in it because
she also said you could make anything in this.
Yeah, which was
awesome.
Which was true of Little Big Planet as well. People were making like side-scrolling shooters and racing games. I mean, this looks like because I know I'm an army of one on this one, but I never really liked Little Big Planet's aesthetic very much.
I didn't either. You're not alone. I hated the jumping mechanics more than anything.
The jumping mechanics were infuriating. But the like kind of the openness of what the look and the tone and the type of objects you can create here in this game are way more interesting to me than what Little Big Planet did, and I'm just curious how they're going to make it all happen and gel together, and what could possibly be the interface for this? How complex is this going to be?
I don't know. I also felt like the interview was not handled particularly well.
No, and I thought the B-roll didn't really match up to they weren't illustrating what they were talking about with the footage, and I wondered if that was because they only have limited footage to work with, or if it was like something was messed up. There's a lot of points in this show, especially in the early part where everybody was on the couches, where it felt like there were like some technical problems or snafu. Like, I mean, in addition to the kind of the cameras out of focus or whatever, but it felt like there were a couple places where things sort of went off the rail a bit.
I felt like she didn't have answers for some questions, or she kind of stumbled over her answers sometimes. I think the vibe I got was that she was like, I've been working on this thing for so damn long. Like,
it's hard to know where to start.
It really was. Like, they were asking her, how much flexibility does it have? Can you create anything? And she kind of said, well, you could do that in Little Big Planet, so duh, why don't you think... Like, I just think maybe they're a little bit defensive at this point about the game because it has been in development for so long.
Well, also it's been like 8 to 9 months of people online saying like, oh, it's canceled, dead, it's canceled. Yeah. And it's like, no, it's never been. It's just...
Sony's very patient with its first-party games.
Yeah, not dead, only sleeping.
Yeah, I gotta hand it to Sony there. So, I guess overall, I don't know. I was pretty disappointed in PSX. I didn't expect it to be as good as the Game Awards, obviously, but I thought we'd get at least a little something. I think the one nugget that we did get was a couple of friends of ours, James Milkey and Sam Kennedy, are working on a PlayStation VR game. That was shown for the first time. Mm-hmm. It was cool to see somebody that from the journalism side making a game and then it being shown at a big event like that. So that was cool. But I think if I had paid to go to PSX, I'd be a little disappointed. Having Kojima on stage is huge, obviously. A lot of people never got to see him in person, so I think that probably massaged away some of the angst, but I don't know.
I wouldn't be disappointed if I'd paid to go PSX at all, because I get to go to PSX. Like, this wasn't PSX. This was like an opening kickoff thing, and now I get to go to the floor and play all these things and climb a Colossus and put on Kratos face paint and shit. Like, that's not what you're there for. Like, this is not like the press conference at E3 was disappointing, so there's nothing to see on the floor you care about.
I think people do go, though, because they want to be there when something big is announced, so they can say, I was there when X happened or Y happened.
But I feel if you're doing that for PSX, like, you're missing the point.
But that's not true, because if you look at past PSXs, something has happened at every single one of those pressers where people can go back and be like, oh my gosh, I saw the first footage of Death Stranding or whatever.
Well, they did, really. I mean, unless they went to the Game Awards, which most of them probably didn't.
Yeah.
So, and maybe they didn't get to see the Death Stranding thing last night because they were, in transit to PSX. Like,
I will say this: it looks like Sony has put even more money into the fan experience on the show floor this year.
Oh yeah, definitely, it's more elaborate than anything they've done before.
Yeah.
I don't think considering you're not just buying into a keynote, you're buying into a whole weekend experience on the floor. I feel like if I was going to that, I would be fine with it.
Yeah.
Especially because, even if you've already seen the Death Stranding trailer, you got to see it big, and Sony's always got crazy presentation and screens and sound.
And Kojima was there.
Kojima comes out, and it's a cool thing. It's a thing you don't get to see every day. I wouldn't be upset. I mean, watching it on a stream is just much less impactful.
For sure.
Because we're just you're hoping to see Bloodborne 2 and nothing happens.
Yeah.
But they told us it's okay. And I think they see the reaction. I'm sure next year they'll save some stuff for next year's keynote and make good on it. It'll be okay. We'll get some Shenmue HD announcement or something.
Where the hell's that game, by the way?
Probably in Norman Reedus' esophagus. I think that's where that is.
Thumbs up.
Just Rio's down there. Thumbs up.
All right, let's move on. Next, we're going to talk about. I don't know if it is the biggest game announcement, but I was kind of surprised that this game was not held for the Game Awards. Mega Man 11 debut this week. It literally was just debuted randomly
Yeah, it just sort of showed
a
up.
couple days before the Game Awards. So I'm wondering if Jeff had worked on this and just couldn't get it, or if Capcom just went rogue and was like, whatever, here we go.
I don't know. Maybe there wasn't room for it.
That's possible, although I would think, based upon some of the games that were at the Game Awards, this should have made the cut.
Also, judging by how long the Game Awards were, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's room for anything.
Yeah, we'll get to that. What do you think of it? So a lot of people are angry that it's like polygonal, still 2D, side-scrolling, but a lot of people are not happy with the art style. They wish it had just kind of stuck with the retro 8-bit style.
I'm kind of over the 8-bit style.
Me too.
We got 2 games of that.
1,000%.
We got 2 games of that. Like, it's time to move it forward a little bit. I'm fine with this.
I think it looks amazing.
I think it looks good. Yeah,
I mean,
looks a hell of a lot better than Mighty Number 9.
Yeah.
Which almost to me almost feels like they're doing this because of that. Like, it's almost like if I were them, there'd be a little bit of like,
They're trying to disassociate her.
why don't we just like make our own version of this and like show
Let's
that we can still do it even if he can't.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Because, I mean, Inafune's probably not working on this, right?
No way.
Which is crazy.
Now, I got to be honest that I was more excited about the Mega Man X collection announcement.
That's a
'cause
big deal.
I love the X games.
I think most people do. I think most people look at those as probably the gold star on the franchise's
I mean, I think
lapel.
Mega Man X1 is the best Mega Man game ever made.
I'd agree with that, 100%. But look, I have liked the last couple 2D Mega Man games. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I didn't like them.
9 and 10 were great, but like, we've done it.
Yeah.
You know? And like,
we've been doing it for like 2.5 decades. I think this game graphically looks awesome. I love the art style.
Yeah, I like it.
If you really pay close attention to his face emotes in like all kinds of different ways while everything's going on. And I like how they kind of did the whole transition thing at the beginning of the trailer from the old style to the new style.
There's a lot of Mega Man this week.
There
was the Monster Hunter World cameo he's making.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there are parts of this game a little bit kind of like how Super Mario Odyssey is, where it transforms and goes
like
back to that retro style here and there.
Some references here and there.
Yeah, but I'm totally happy with this game. I don't understand what all the hate is over with the art style. I think it looks amazing. It's the best looking Mega Man game ever, probably.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument to be made for like the clean cell animation of like Mega Man 8.
Yeah,
but Mega Man 8 also has the worst voice acting of one of the. I mean, I don't know if you remember Mega Man 8 at all.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
with Dr. Light and his weird speech impediment, and everyone talking about evil energy.
Yeah,
all the time.
So, it seemed like there was a lot of uproar over this game. There certainly was on Sifted. Like, the comments underneath the debut trailer is probably 75% negative, 25% positive. I was one of the positives.
Yeah.
But, it seemed like most people didn't like it. I'm all over it. Coming to every platform next year. I don't think they've given a more solid date than that, though, have they?
Yeah, it'll be long.
Yeah. And it'll be out for everything eventually.
Yeah. I mean, Mega Man X Collection is... My targets are on that.
And when does that come out?
I thought they said March, but I might be wrong.
So early next year. Early next year, there's a window sitting there.
Yeah.
It's not like this year.
No.
Where there was no window.
It's not like congested with a bunch of like early Game of the Year nominees yet.
That just never made it the year before.
Yeah. And things are sliding. Far Cry 5 slid.
Yeah. Crew 2 slid.
Crew 2 slid to somewhere in the next fiscal year, right?
Yeah, like it could be up to like 9 months or a year later than when it was supposed to be announced. And then Ubisoft said, a game it had never even announced, no one even knows about yet, was delayed a year.
A thing you don't know about?
You're not getting.
You're not getting it.
It's so weird to say that, don't you think? I don't know if a publisher's ever done that before.
Yeah,
hey, here's this game that you know nothing about, you didn't know existed, it's not coming until... What the hell?
Sorry.
That's so bizarre. All right, let's move along. We're going to talk next about the Game Awards. Hands down, the biggest story of the week. We're going to start off the discussion by just talking about our general impressions. We do this every year because Matt and I have a history in television. We both worked award shows. You worked G4ia for several years at G4. I did G4ia with you there. Then I went on and worked on the Spike VGAs with Keeley and Spike TV for years and years.
I worked with Keeley on the G4ia stuff back in the day.
Did he do G4ia?
Yeah, we did some G4ia stuff. I did a post show as well where
that was a great post show.
Crashing Euphoria, where they just basically gave me like an hour and said like, we don't know what this is, we have no budget, like just do something. So they're like, oh, did you just tell me to do whatever I wanted?
Yeah.
So Keeley did a bunch of, but we did a whole story where they were all the hosts that weren't Adam Morgan and Kevin Pereira were basically barred from G4ia, so they had to break in. So we had like this whole thing where they all broke in various ways. And
that was the same year I did the nomination specials, I think.
yeah,
right?
you did the pre-show with like the bar scene and all that.
Well, no, it was Race to G4. It was a series of like 6 episodes of all the hosts from G4
so they had you do that
racing to get to G4.
And I did the post one, and we did we went crazy, and we insulted William Shatner, and it was
Well, I remember we had Ratty Hand Puppet.
Yeah, Ratty parachuted in.
Parachuted from like the top of a building all.
Yeah, Bobby Burns and the camera crew guys spent 3 days rigging that up from a building next door. It was like a line that
just so a hand puppet could slide down it.
I mean, I just said I want them to do this, and they got super energized. They were like, "We're gonna make this happen."
It's great.
Everyone was so excited to work on like a cool. I mean, it wasn't a cool effect, but it was an effect. It was something.
It was funny.
Something we didn't normally do.
Yeah.
But yeah, Keeley was invited. He was super game for every weird thing we wanted to do there. And but we always had that same frustration shared of like, the award show was basically like celebrities accepting awards, and no developers were on stage, and the Black Eyed Peas spent half the time playing songs. And
G4A was bad.
Yeah,
it was probably the worst video game award show ever, and there was nothing we could do about it. And in all honesty, at Spike with the VGAs, it was kind of the same thing. Like we had an editorial council. And I sat in all the meetings, and Jeff and I would go to war with Spike TV over how we thought the awards should be done, and then the talent side of Spike TV would come into the meeting and be like, "Oh no,
It was funny how no matter how much headway we made, because he was also very involved when we were first going live for E3. E3 05 live. It was the first time we did that, and we'd done like press conference stuff, but we'd never done the whole show before. And like he was very involved in the planning of that, and one of the live personalities on that. And no matter how much headway we made with that show and how successful it was, they still wouldn't listen to us about Euphoria.
Well, that continued on at Spike TV for like 7 years, so I feel your pain there. But anyway,
well, yeah, the Spike Show Awards really felt like Euphoria continued in a lot of ways.
It evolved a little bit, but not much. It still had the stupid gags and the digs at gamers and all that crap. So anyway, we do have a framework, a basis of knowledge, because we've worked on these award shows to kind of discuss, at least maybe a little bit intelligently, the Game Awards. So what are your overall impressions, Matt, of the show?
Overall, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was an improvement over last year. They toned down the intrusive sponsorship stuff. There was no Hydrobot guy in a costume thing. Like the headers for the awards would have presented by Schick or whatever, which is very standard. They had the commercial breaks were it's weird to go to commercial break in a stream, I guess, but at least it was on subject advertising.
The commercial break. So here's one thing I do want to mention. There were a lot of commercial breaks.
Yeah.
So while the live stream was going on, I created a log, and all you sifters who have not gone and watched the archive yet, there's a log of everything that happens in order, so you can skip around and watch what you want to watch. But I even logged the commercial breaks, and there were a lot of commercial breaks. I mean, just as much as if it had been on television. Maybe that's by design. Maybe they're hoping to re-air it on TV. I don't know.
No, I think they just needed the sponsorship to put this thing on. This is another. I like that they had an orchestra instead of random musical acts for the most part.
Well, they did have Phoenix, though.
Phoenix, but one is better than 4, what they've done in the past. I don't understand why they felt the need to sex up the women in the orchestra. That is that's weird to me.
The one ate her.
Yeah,
I'm surprised she has not turned into a meme already.
Yeah, I don't.
As soon as I saw her, I'm like, oh, the internet's gonna have fun with this girl.
But it's a cool idea. I like that they're playing actual game music. It was cool when they brought up.
It was great. I love the orchestra.
They did the song from Mario Odyssey.
Yep.
And then they cut to the audience, which had all been given Mario hats, and there was this one girl with thick hipster style glasses, and she's just not going to dance for you. She was my favorite thing in all the crowd shots.
Some of the crowd shots were pretty funny. Whoever's doing the B-roll of the crowd did a good job of picking out the people.
She's not there to have a good time for you.
It seemed like they kept showing the people who were disgruntled in the crowd.
Yeah, it was weird. Normally your front crowd is hired to be there.
They're paid.
They're paid to be excited. Yeah. But it felt like that may not have been the case on this one.
That was funny. I thought the orchestra was amazing, and I hope it comes back every year.
Conducted by the guy who was the composer for SWTOR, I believe.
Yeah, it added an air of class to the entire thing. I thought, if anything, maybe it was underused because
you could go harder on that.
It kind of opened the show, and you didn't really have an orchestral piece until the end, and then there were 2 right in a row.
Yeah. I also felt like it was better. I mean, it was only a handful of years ago that they closed with an acoustic set from Imagine Dragons. So this is a way better.
Oh yeah,
sure. It's on topic.
For sure.
It doesn't. It's.
I thought it was great, and just hearing orchestral versions of your favorite theme songs from just the game of the year, I thought was incredible.
It feels like the bringing on. I mean, the Phoenix thing did feel like this, where it's like it feels like you're trying to legitimize it by bringing on bands people have heard of,
right?
And like you shouldn't need that if the art form is really worth celebrating.
They don't.
In that way,
and
you
don't.
And they didn't. And this orchestra's a big step in that direction. I got the feeling that this is something Jeff has wanted for a long time. Yeah. So this was a very positive step. I thought it felt much more professional and put together than it has in the last couple of years, especially last year. Clearly, he listened to the feedback from last year and incorporated it and found a way to make the sponsors happy, but to make the viewers feel like they weren't being like assaulted and pandered to. I mean,
I don't know. I do think it stepped over the line a little bit in that regard.
Couple, but not as bad as last year. Last year was hilarious.
It felt like the whole show was bought by eBay.
Oh yeah,
and I saw these comments all over the internet, on our site, on Twitter.
Yeah, the cuts
Facebook.
to I don't remember what her name was, but where she'd cut because of the backstage woman, and
she was awkward.
She'd talk about like go to eBay and buy them. You can buy these on eBay where the people who made them don't get a cut of the sale. Great, awesome. Like I don't know what that was. I mean, but again, like you need a lot of sponsorship money to put something like this on. So it's like you got to go with who's interested, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to. I mean, I guess
you could just lose a ton of money. Yeah.
Well, Jeff's not going to lose money.
No,
that's not how Jeff operates. That's not going to happen. I also thought she was lip syncing this song, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the girl who's just like. I love,
yeah, if you actually watch this performance, it appears that she's lip syncing this song, and she's actually the vocalist that sings it.
Yeah, I mean maybe because she's moving away from the microphone so much.
And the voice is always clear. Yeah, I thought that was a little strange. Let's start talking about the actual awards. How happy were you that Breath of the Wild won Game of the Year?
I mean, I expected it.
Yeah, I think everybody expected it.
I don't agree with it, but I expected it. Like, what are your options there? Like, it's got to be Zelda. Like, that's the thing everybody.
Well, if you're polling 51 publications and you look at the aggregate review score for that game.
When you look at what percentage of the gaming press is just made up of Nintendo fans who wanted to do this for a living, I mean, Nintendo's got a real advantage there, especially if they release a good game.
I think we're going to talk next about a game that maybe
the only question is
a little bit of that.
Well, that's an interesting part of that conversation, I think. But it's like there's some I think talk about the Mario and Zelda in the same year, but the last time that happened was 2002 with Wind Waker and Sunshine, and Nintendo had the courtesy to make the Mario game terrible, so we didn't have to make that choice. But this time it was I would think it would have been a harder decision, but it seems like people are picking Zelda, which I think I expected in the sense that Zelda's more of a reinvention of the franchise, and it was sort of the first thing they played on the Switch, and they love the Switch, and it's had time to percolate, and they haven't people have it's finally okay to talk about the flaws of the Breath of the Wild. Early on, it was not. That's the Zelda syndrome.
I talked about them all along.
But you're in the honey.
I never pulled any punches.
There's a honeymoon period with Zelda where you're not allowed to say that something's wrong with it, which was the worst in Skyward Sword because everything's wrong with that game pretty much. But there's things like I think this should be this.
Well, you can. You just pay for it, and I did.
This should be this or that should be that, and I was like, and even the first DLC addressed that to some degree. Where it's like, here's a couple of quality of life things that probably should have been in the main game, but we didn't put them in, and we charged you for them, and any other company be crucified in the street for doing that, but we're Nintendo, so we're
going to get away with it, yeah.
If EA did that, if EA didn't put all the map features in something and then charged you money through a season pass for them 4 months later, somebody would have dragged them in the street and shot them. But, okay, sure.
Any other awards where kind of raised an eyebrow over which game won? Seemed like they were all pretty good.
I was annoyed that Horizon didn't win anything.
B, it was nominated for everything.
And B, I mean, part of the problem is because it's up against Zelda, and nobody has a shot against Zelda because Zelda. I was surprised that Wolfenstein 2 won Best Action Game.
But they don't have a first-person shooter category.
That's not what I'm talking about. I just mean in those nominees, that one? Really? I mean, I like Wolfenstein, but I wouldn't have picked it over any of those others.
Yeah. That's a little dicey. I don't know. Wolfenstein's a really good game. I think
Wolfenstein's more of a really good premise. I think as I've gotten further into it, I feel like the level design and kind of the scenario design is not as good as the first game.
It's hard as balls, that game. It
doesn't
really
mess around.
is.
Well, one of the reasons I think it's so hard, and I think I saw this when you were playing it on that half marathon stream, you don't have a lot of indication that you're getting hurt.
No.
Like you got to keep an eye
obvious.
on that health meter, and
And if you do that, you get shot. So.
Right. And what was it? Well, what was the game that they just added? Oh, Agents of Mayhem had that problem too, and they just in one of the recent patches they added like basically more screen feedback that tells you you're low on health because like there's
the other problem with Wolfenstein is it only takes a couple shots and you die because you
especially
only
early
have
on.
half your health and
early on you have
Right.
you have abbreviated health, I guess we'll call it.
Yeah.
But I was a little surprised that was the pick.
I'm not surprised knowing the game's press.
I guess not, but like, really that one? Like of those 5, like that one?
One thing I will say
I was
is,
happy that Cuphead won art direction.
It cleaned up pretty much for...
Cuphead did well.
Yeah.
Because Cuphead was up against Zelda on that, and I thought Zelda would win that.
Here's one thing I do love, is that these people were overjoyed to win this award. Mm-hmm. It's crazy to me. Like, Enuma acts like he's just made crappy games his whole life.
Right.
Like he's just like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that we won. It's like, bro, everybody knew you were going to win.
Well, no, here's the thing. I feel like, I think if you've been working on Breath of the Wild and you've got your head down on this thing for so many years, and I mean, we forget now that it's out and we've played it and everybody loves it and this stuff. If you're working on this game in a vacuum and you've been working on Zelda for 25 whatever years he's been doing it, this game's so different from what Zelda... You have to be terrified that you're going to put this out and people are going to be like, what the hell is this? Like,
what
this
I
is
love
not what I wanted. So I'm sure he's still just riding high on the idea that people accepted this radically new take on this game from him. I understand that.
What I love is when the other guy talks and Enuma is not at the mic, just watching him stand there, it's just so pure and clean, the joy of winning this award.
Also, who knows how much of this game's like basic concept was like his idea that he had to fight for with me. You wonder if he's going to go back to Japan and just like hold that award in Miyamoto's face.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It could be one of those cases, but that's what I loved about them winning this award, is that I've never seen someone win Game of the Year and be as legitimately happy and humble about winning it.
Yeah, it was good to
Even though everybody but them seemed to know it was going to win.
Yeah, I would not...
Look at him over there. Like, you can just see him. He's just, like, beside himself. He can't believe, like, that they won. Like,
I think it's just
awesome.
relief that, like, and I'm sure this will continue as they go, but I'm sure it's relief that, like, this game was a risk when you really think about it. Yeah. And I think you can credit it in large part for the strong early sales of the Switch. Like,
for sure. Yeah.
Like this, this man's going to get a pretty good performance review this year.
He better. He better. But look, overall,
yeah, it is way better than like a lot of the other like the Golden Joystick Awards. You saw the Zelda won, and someone just came up and said thank you, and like walked away. Like this was a much more human response.
Yeah, I love it.
Which like Nintendo doesn't have to do.
No,
like Nintendo doesn't have to be that happy about that. They know what they are.
Yeah.
But like it was a nice moment. Even as someone who thought that's not what should have won, like I was like, all right, you guys did it with some class.
They appreciate it very, very much, and I love that about it. Overall, for me, I thought the show was incredible. I think it's easy to sit back and nitpick, particularly as people who have worked on production teams that have put together award shows. I think we also maybe have a little more sympathy. I think in years prior, maybe we had more sympathy for the show than other people did because we know what goes on behind the scenes and how hard it is to kind of get that ultimate gamer ideal into the show.
Right.
But this year, I think it makes it just as easy to celebrate what a great job Jeff did with these awards.
I thought like 2 years ago was like, okay, I see where you're going. I think this is like, you're in the right direction. Last year I felt like it was a step backwards.
Yeah.
And this year I feel like you've not only made up the ground you lost last year, I think it's better than the year before.
Yeah.
I think
Keeley did an amazing job.
I still don't think this will ever be the Oscars.
We'll get to that.
Because, well, that's a whole different thing. Because the reason awards like Oscars and Emmys are considered prestigious is because they're peers recognizing peers.
Yeah.
This is a marketing stunt. But it's finally becoming a marketing stunt that doesn't make me embarrassed to watch it.
You're right. Yeah.
And that's an achievement. Like, I mean, just, maybe we know this more than most, but like the amount of corporate and just like, bullshit that Jeff would have, even at this time, at this level, would have to cut through to get this show to be what he wants it to be. That's so no minor task.
Because it's hard to sell to sponsors.
Yeah.
Because all sponsors want to know is who's going to be there. When you talk about award shows, here's how they typically work, and here's how they worked at Spike. Talent runs everything. It's their job to get people and confirm that they're going to be there, that they're going to be on the red carpet. Once they do that, then they start shopping it out to sponsors, because the first question the sponsor asks is, let's see your talent list. And so they want to say, well, who's going to be there? Who's going to be on the red carpet? Because if a publisher is basically going to pay for the step and repeat on the red carpet, they're going to say, well, who's going to be standing in front of our logo in front of the step and repeat? So they want to know who's going to be there before they'll commit. And they're like, okay, well, are they going to walk the red carpet? Are they not? It's run by a whole different group of people that have nothing to do with gaming. And that's why the VGAs all the time, you'd have comedians on there come on and do crappy stand-up routines or whatever. And for Jeff to be, and like, he's worked in that environment, he knows what it's like. And so for Jeff to be able to cut through all that and still get great sponsorship for this show and to still do a show that gamers are going to appreciate and love, kudos to him, man. I just, again, having worked with him for 8 or 9 years on award shows, and this is something that he and I wanted for a really long time to see him achieve it. I'm really happy for him and really proud of him. So great job on that. Let's move on to the other biggest part of the Game Awards, which is the announcements. And let's be honest, this is why most people tune in.
Yeah.
And rightfully so.
Because nobody cares really about the awards that much.
Yeah,
the awards don't have prestige to them that, like, you know, they don't carry any weight that you know, like a Tony or something would.
Yeah. I mean, maybe one
I
day
was
it
almost
gets
going to say
there.
Grammy, but nobody gives a shit
Maybe
about the
in
Grammys.
15 years it gets there where it has a little more prestige. But now it's
not
just
an overnight thing.
It's one award out of hundreds.
But you have to keep churning out shows like this quality every year
to get there.
Yeah.
But so most people watch for the premieres, and I think overall the premieres in this year's show were pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
It was funny because I watched
It's actually
the show.
the PSX kind of doing the more low key thing. Like, actually really works out well for him. Because,
well, I wonder if Jeff just snatched them all up and PSX had nothing.
No, I don't think that's what happened at all.
I mean, look, if you're a publisher, way more people are going to watch the Game Awards than we're going to watch a PSX press
Right, but
conference.
PSX didn't replan that whole thing in a week. Like, that's what that was always going to be. Like,
well, it's pretty easy to just slide a trailer here or there.
No, the only thing that may have been in that regard would have been the Death Stranding trailer. Like, maybe they wanted to...
I'm sure there was a fight over that.
Probably was.
But there was no fight because...
But Kojima is besties with Keighley,
are.
so there was no... Yeah, I mean, Kojima is one of the elite few who can be like, no, my trailer's going to run on this.
Yeah, I mean, it's being Death Stranding's being published by Sony.
Yeah.
That shows you the relationship that those two guys have.
Yeah.
That he could convince them, no, I'm going to do it with Jeff at the Game Awards.
Right, and also, like, I mean, look, Kojima is held in high esteem, and if what he wants to do is what he wants to do. And I mean, even look at that story he told at PSX
about Andrew House,
or no, about Guerrilla Games, like going to see Guerrilla Games, and they gave him a wooden box when he left,
with
and they
the
opened
code.
and it had their engine source code in it. They're like, please see what you can do with it.
Yeah.
There was no contract, there was no non-disclosure agreement, there was no nothing, and they just said, please take our engine and see if you like it.
Yeah,
like,
well, they want him to use their engine.
That is, I have never heard of anything
it's
like
pretty
that.
Crazy.
That's a you don't. There's maybe two, 3 people in the industry that would get that.
Well, then he told the story of Andrew House as well,
right.
where first they told the story about his code being stolen at E3, which was the first time
Andrew House ever met him.
But then he told the second story about after he had left Konami and he was on his own. He's trying to figure out what he was going to do, and he met with Andrew House and he gave him this spiel. I want to do this, 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 and this, and I want to do it all independently. And Andrew's just like, okay, like no questions, no paperwork.
Andrew glances over at the Last Guardian poster.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, I felt like the premieres at this were pretty incredible. We're going to go through one by one. We're not going to spend a ton of time on each one of these. First one we're going to talk about is World War Z. Day late and $1 short on that one, you think?
I missed this. I didn't see this one.
You didn't see World War Z?
I either was out of the room or I didn't.
Well, you're going to see it right now on GameFace.
I've seen like people talk about it, and I'm just like, oh, I totally missed this one.
Yeah, it's
I might have just thought it was Zombie Game 4893 and ignored it. I don't know.
Well, the one thing I will say is you can tell it's a World War Z game because it does like the zombie piling. Remember in the film how they would just all run into a wall and they just get all piled up and like they.
Oh wait, no, I did see this. I thought it was Days Gone.
No, this is World War Z.
Okay. I thought this was Days Gone.
Kind of the antithesis of striking while the iron is hot.
Yeah, well.
Is there a new World War Z movie coming by any chance?
I don't think so.
Really? So they just really were this late to the party on it.
Sure.
Game looks pretty good. Third-person shooter, zombie survival game.
Don't have any of those.
I mean, when I first saw this, I thought it might be Days Gone.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
When I first started watching
because I wasn't paying attention because this shot where they all are running like across the like that. This is where I first turned back to the screen. I think,
gotcha.
And saw them all running. I'm like, oh, it must be Days Gone.
That's what I thought at first.
There's snow in Days Gone. Cool. You know, like that's about as far as it went there.
Yeah, and it's going to have some stiff competition with Days Gone as well. But I do like how it does kind of have the movie aesthetic of just the hordes kind of working together to overcome massive walls and skyscrapers.
I just hated that movie.
You hated the movie?
Yeah.
I think I was just indifferent to it. I was like, yeah, it's a zombie movie.
I would have been indifferent to it if I didn't like the book. I mean, the book has its own problems, but like the first like half of the book is like one of the best zombie outbreak setups ever made, and like, wow, it's not at all what was in the book. I mean, it was very disappointing because, like, I think I don't know if you've ever read the book, but the book is set up it's set up like a series of interviews with survivors. It's like it's in universe. It's a book written after the zombie like apocalypse, and like it's like a retrospective book about the people who were in it and solved it. You know, kind of like a Ken Burnsy sort of thing.
Right.
So an oral history sort of thing, and like so it's going through all that, and like, oh man, you could have made an amazing mockumentary like out of this book, and it would not have been a $200 million blockbuster, but it would have been a way better movie.
Funny how that works.
I mean, this wasn't a $200 million blockbuster either. It lost a lot of money.
Yeah. So we've already talked about Death Stranding a good bit. We've talked kind of about the periphery of it. We have not talked about the actual trailer or short or mini film or whatever you want to call it.
Like a 10-minute thing. Yeah, that's how long Kojima's trailers are, really.
This is 9 minutes long.
Yeah.
We wanted to make it the trailer of the week this week. I was like, wow, we could like make lunch and like have a snack while it ran. But I knew we were going to want to talk about it, so it's not our trailer of the week this week. But what do you think of the trailer, Matt?
Impressive tech, completely uninteresting to me.
Really?
Yeah.
Completely uninteresting?
I don't trust this game at all, and like everything, all the questions this trailer raises, I would be normally interested in, but it's Kojima, so all the answers are going to be stupid.
Yeah.
Like I don't mean there's a lot of cool imagery here, but
that's what I'm saying.
It's all going to come to
like
nothing.
The most interesting game in the world right now.
But no, because there's no game here. This is a movie.
Oh wait, Matt, they said that the underwater part is playable. Did you see that in the panel?
What, do I press A to wake him up? Like what?
Did you see that in the panel?
Yeah.
Well, I think it was Cerny who said that. He's like,
somebody, was it Cerny who said, like, if you play, like, the first 4 hours of this game, this makes a lot more sense? And I'm like, well, then show us! Dickhead. Like,
I think this trailer is freaking awesome, man. I mean, look,
I
agree with your points that, you know, who knows if it actually, any of this even is in the game ultimately, or what the game is, or if it's just like a walking, who knows? But
I mean, I'm guessing it's going to be kind of a permutation of Metal Gear Solid 5's gameplay. That's what I expect.
Probably. But in my opinion, this is one of the best video game trailers I've ever seen. I mean, it has it all.
Except the game.
Yeah, I would know.
It's
playable,
Matt. It's just a fucking movie. I mean, it's a cool premise, sort of, except I'm really tired of black oil stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just...
It looks insane. It really does. So it appears that these creatures can hear human voices, but they can't hear anything else?
It seems like they're only sensitive to life, because otherwise the little things would probably set them.
Yeah, because you shoot the guns, they don't hear that.
Yeah, they're only interested in organic matter, it looks like.
Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy. This game looks freaking crazy. Like, we've seen like 20 minutes of it, and still we have no clue what it is, or what any of it means, or...
It means nanomachines. That's
nanomachines.
All. Nanomachines, or all the invisible things are the rageful spirits of aborted fetuses or something. It's got to be something stupid like that.
Look, I totally get where you're coming from.
Which was the ending of Drakengard 1, by the way.
I totally get where you're coming from. Like, this happens with Kojima all the time. He puts out trailers like this. And
if this was the new Insomniac game or the new Sucker Punch game, I'd be like, holy crap, this is going to be incredible. I'm on board. But this is Kojima, and it's going to be dumb.
Look, I agree with you within the...
I just want to see what the game is, you know?
Look, I agree with you. The context of the whole thing with this game is Kojima's game sours the milk a little bit. Mm-hmm. But just as far as like, hey, here's 8 minutes of media promoting a video game. This shit's awesome, dude. Like, it really is. Like, technically it looks amazing. He did say this is running on PS4 Pro, which I'm glad he disclosed.
This is the Horizon Zero Dawn engine.
Which wow, what a great place to start. Oh, it's called the Mythic or something? Or
No, it's like D. It begins with a D.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Dimac or something like that. I can't remember. But, like, it made me more excited to play the
Mikkelsen.
game. Yeah, he's the bad guy, I'm sure. But it's just, I don't even know how he comes up with this stuff. Like, it's just mind-boggling where this comes from. I don't know if it is him or if he's got some guy who's like his ghostwriter or whatever, but he comes up with
I'm sure he has a team, a go-to team, but like he has...
But like the device that everyone's wearing and like these weird creatures that come up from the ground and like suck you down and like there's all kinds of little weird stuff you watch, like when the bad guy shows up and he points, like then the fetus in that thing starts like freaking out and then like when the one guy gets dragged away, he waits to kill him. Like, he waits till they drag him, like, 20 or 30 feet away before he actually shoots him. Like, what's the relevance of that? Like, there's just...
Because if he kills them too close to himself, they'll come after him.
But they can't hear the gun, right?
Can't hear the gun, they can hear him breathing.
Right, it's just crazy. Like, I
mean, it's internally like there's a lot of clues as to how everything's working together, and it's there. But like, I'm sure the explanation of this will be stupid.
Yeah, I believe that. I just think that this, for a piece of
it's a very
video
impressive
game
piece
media,
of tech.
it's really awesome.
Sure, it's an impressive piece of tech. It's just I'm kind of over the whole we're going to show you a long narrative sequence without showing you how the game plays thing.
Yeah,
and
I get that.
And everybody gets lambasted for that now. Except Kojima, apparently. The other thing that bugs me
is... That's because his stuff like that is so much better than everybody else's.
The other thing that bugs me is people keep calling this thing Lovecraftian. And that's not true because the definition of Lovecraft horror are these giant crazy things behind the reality of the world don't care about us, and that's the horror, is that we're insignificant. Clearly these things care about us a lot in Death Stranding.
Apparently this is playable. This is what he was saying.
Well, this looks excellent.
Yeah, It looks like a lot of gameplay there. So I was really impressed with it. You're right. I mean, the game may be a shadow of what we're seeing here.
Yeah, ultimately. I mean, look, Norman Reedus comes out and says, he's been working on this game 4 years and he doesn't know what it's about. That's not a great look, really.
It's not. But that may be just part of the narrative that Kojima's putting out there.
Somewhat, but again, it's just like, the proof is going to be in the so-called pudding here, and I don't mean the black crap that keeps dragging them down. I mean, like, even if you go back and look at games from Kojima that I don't like, there's amazing imagery and really interesting, like, technical ideas and really cool premise, like, work there. Even stuff like that, that little logo on the door, where it's like, okay, there's some kind of
it's like everything
network
that floats by has some kind of significance to it. Yeah,
it's a big tease, and that's cool. But like, and then here's our thumbs up, baby.
It's just insane, dude. And I love how he puts little stuff like that in all his
hang loose,
trailers.
bro.
It's nuts. I loved it. I thought it was incredible.
And some of I bet some of this imagery is coming from Del Toro.
Yeah,
because
of course,
while if you look at kind of the alien, the kaiju dimension in Pacific Rim, apparently that's recycled a little bit from what he wanted to do in his Mountains of Madness movie, and like I think there's some of that happening here. Like, I mean, Del Toro, I guess the other thing is, like, Del Toro, I think, is a brilliant visual filmmaker, but if it's not in the script, it ain't making it. His storytelling is entirely, relying on how good the script is.
You're right.
And, like, if Kojima's writing the script, we're in trouble.
We are in trouble. Like, yeah, he's an aspiring filmmaker, but he should stick to games.
Yeah, I don't know if aspiring is the word I would use. It's more like he's a
delusional,
failed director who's been taking out his angst on the game industry for 20 years.
That's maybe another way to put it.
Because that's the other thing that I think it was telling. I mean, back in the day when Metal Gear Solid 1 came out, which I still like that pretty well.
Yeah.
People were talking about, oh my god, the coherence and I'm like, what are you talking about? It's a series of cutscenes connected by mini games. Like, that's all Metal Gear Solid 1 is. It's a long narrative, and periodically you play a mini game that's a boss battle or you gotta sneak through a little section. And people went nuts at me for saying that. And then years later, there was that big article of with a retrospective on 20 years later and stuff. And the guys who were like the lead gameplay people were like, yeah, basically he said, I'm going to write this story, and there's gaps here you need to fill in with mini games. And he's like, so we just came up with a bunch of every boss battle is different because we came up with a different mini game that you had to do to beat it. And I'm like, thank you. Like, that's Kojima's games are as good as the team he hires to handle the gameplay, so he doesn't have to worry about it.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Like, and so to me, like, all this stuff about, oh my god, he's a genius, he's a genius, he's a genius. He's like, well, maybe he's a genius who knows how to surround himself with good people. but like
That's a skill.
the genius is not in the writing. I'll tell you that much.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm a little more skeptical about this than you are.
Well, I'm not even talking about the game. I was just talking about the piece of media.
Piece of media is cool, but like again, it's like if George Lucas put this out, I would also be skeptical of how that was going to turn out in the end. You know, like the trailers for the prequels are still great if you watch them, but then you watch the prequels.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, the proof is in the pudding, but I was just talking about it as a piece of promotional media for a video game. I think it's one of the best video game trailers ever. And that's saying a lot, because I've watched a metric ton of video game trailers.
Well, he does a lot of them.
And I mean,
a lot of the best
No,
trailers.
you're right. If I looked at like my top 20 video game trailers of all time, I probably would have like 4 or 5 of his trailers on there. He's
original
good at
like
it.
Metal Gear Solid 2 trailer is still
Brought down the house at E3, man. Like literally.
You literally didn't want to walk near the Konami booth because there were just knots of people watching that trailer
every time it rolled. Yeah. So, all right, let's move on. Let's talk now about PUBG. So this was really kind of PUBG's Xbox coming out party, so to speak. We got the release date for it on Xbox, although it's early access on Xbox on the 12th or the 14th?
12th. And then 20th is 1.0 on PC.
So how do you feel now that you know that information about it being considered for awards in the Game Awards?
Still not out. Like, you're not judging the game that came out. You're judging the early access
title. Also comes out
and it
after
didn't win
cutoff.
anything, so the guy who made it was right, wasn't he?
No, it did win something. It won Best Multiplayer Game.
Did it?
Yeah.
That wasn't even in the show, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of the big awards weren't in this show.
Yeah, well, they've done that. And, like, somebody asked Jeff about that, I think, in the pre-show or something, and he was like, screw it.
Well, they want, like, Best Female Performer. They want the talent to come up there. And...
No, I was rooting for Ashley Birch on that, but I think I can't remember her name, but the woman who played not her name isn't Hellblade, her name is Senua, but she was very good, too.
Well, yeah, I mean,
also,
you don't know who she is because she was their video editor.
Right.
She has no history. She had never acted before. It was her first gig ever.
Well, she's got a new career now.
She sure does. Yeah.
And Hellblade also won audio, which is correct. Which is
well
correct.
Earned. Yep.
Yes.
Again, I think most of the awards were pretty good. I also wanted to mention the Industry Icon Award, which was given to the woman who programmed my favorite Atari 2600 game of all time, River Raid. Mm-hmm. I thought they did a great job of choosing a person for that.
Yeah, she was a good pick, and it was a good retrospective video. It was a good. It was nice to see her on stage.
Absolutely.
That was all a good deal. Like there was.
River Raid is still great to play, by the way.
Yeah.
It is still an awesome game, which cannot be said about 99.5% of Atari 2600 games.
Atari 2600 games are a rough ride these days, but River Raid still works.
Still fun. Yep.
I was also, and I agree with them. Some people were saying like Divinity Original Sin 2 was not nominated for enough stuff. It was nominated for Best RPG. And
I think it won something.
It didn't win anything.
Oh, it didn't? I thought it did win something.
Not that I saw. I looked up all the nominees and winners before I came over, and I might be forgetting, but the only thing I saw it nominated for was Best RPG, and it did not win that. Which is largely because the people who were, the 51 people voting on this did not play it.
Yep, you're absolutely right.
So it's like, the thing, I know like that's also a problem in like the big awards. Like, you see that in particular if you watch the Oscars, watch the Best Animated category. There's like anonymously Academy voters pretty much admit, we just vote for the Pixar one. No one watches anything.
Well, it's kind of like, we'll be doing our Game of the Year awards next week, and we kind of throw a disclaimer out there. Like, look, we haven't played everything, so these are our picks for...
I have. No, I haven't.
No, you haven't.
I haven't actually played Original Sin 2.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Because you look at it, it's like a 70-hour game or whatever. Like, how do you find time for that?
That's the one big game that you need to play Horizon.
I am playing it right now. We'll talk about a game in a little bit that I've played for the last day and a half or whatever, but I have been playing Horizon Zero Dawn. So for next week's show, I'm hoping to have at least 15 or 20 hours into it. So
even if you hate it, like it's part
I don't hate it. I've already played enough of it to know I don't hate it. So that is my big task before.
Yeah, but I mean, like just kind of a general like if you're going to talk about Game of the Year 2017, you have to have played Horizon and Zelda and Mario, and
absolutely.
There's that kind of fleet of top tier games you got to know about. So
yeah, I've spent.
And Original Sin 2 is probably one of those, but I just haven't had time to do it.
Me either.
Also, it's expensive.
Yeah. But it's like, we couch the awards on GameFace as these are our picks. Like, I don't have any illusions that whatever I pick for the Game of the Year is the definitive Game of the Year.
Oh, no, I think I proved that one last year.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, touche. So PUBG, let's get back to PUBG. I don't know how we got off on that crazy tangent. So you still don't think it should have been considered for Game of the Year?
No.
I knew it wasn't going to win.
It's not a federal case or anything.
Yeah, I think part of the reason why I didn't get up in arms over it is because I knew it wasn't going to win.
Right, it wasn't going to win. But the problem is, like, now you got the issue. It's like, well, does it get nominated next year?
No, I don't think it can.
I wouldn't think so.
By their standards, it can't. It can't. But I think it did win one award already, which is good enough.
It can be nominated for ongoing game.
PUBG doesn't need awards. It's
really,
not going to affect it in any way, shape, or form.
You can be nominated for ongoing game, but it was already nominated for ongoing game, and so was a game that's 2.5 months old, and then the game that wasn't out yet. I mean, ongoing game feels like you should only be eligible if you've been out before this calendar year.
Yeah, like it shouldn't have had like.
Shouldn't have Destiny 2. Shouldn't have PUBG.
Yeah, because it's not an ongoing game. It just came out a month ago.
And the right game won that, I think.
It did. It absolutely did. And I mean, look, Siege certainly deserved to be in there, and there's a couple that picked.
I mean, that is the one thing I can say for this is, for the most part, although I think Zelda got some stuff it shouldn't have gotten, for the most part, the right thing won, even if you don't agree with all the nominees.
Yeah. That's what happens when you have 51 people polled instead of a couple people or 12 or whatever. Even back in the VGAs, I think the most people we had voting every year was like 33, something like that.
Well, look, at least it's not you're not nominating like games specifically because Samuel L. Jackson was in them or something.
Right.
There
was a one year the VGAs where Madden won Game of the Year.
Madden won Game of the Year, and it was the first thing they gave out.
Because they let the users pick the winners back then. And that's when we kind of started the whole editorial council thing, where we started polling like all the EICs from all the websites, and that's when it started turning in the right direction.
Right.
So
I do think like I don't know the numbers or the stats on it, but I do think all the stuff about best trending gamer, best esports team, all that stuff just seems extraneous.
I mean, look, they put best like esports guy in the show,
right?
Which the whole acceptance thing was just awkward and weird. And look at all the big awards they left out of there.
Yeah.
But it's like catering to a specific audience, so you hope that
but
a
does the
fraction
esports
of their audience turns
give
in.
a shit about awards for basically console games?
What Jeff is hoping is that he tweets out, "I just won."
Right.
Half or a third of his following on social media comes and watches the show for 10 minutes.
Vaguely looks up from their streams of League of Legends or whatever.
All he's looking for is that bump in uniques. Even if it lasts for 10 minutes, it doesn't matter. Like, if 500,000 people come to see him accept an award, that 500K is a part of what he's going to sell the next year.
I mean,
this many people watched.
It was very smart, I think, because in the sense that it gets you sponsorship and it gets you sponsorship money, but it doesn't interfere with the show, where they had a lot of things where, like, if you watch it on Steam, you're entered in these drawings to get free games. If you watch it on Twitch, you get these free things. If you watch, like, for 20 minutes or more, I think you got, like, a free cape in Warframe or something. Like those kind of weird little bonuses where, like, it's like, hey, not only watch it on this particular service, but watch it for a certain length of time. Like, those are really smart, because that gets you sponsorship, but it doesn't interfere with the actual programming of the content.
Yeah,
so
you're absolutely right.
He's definitely getting smarter about, not necessarily he's getting smarter, I'm sure he had that idea along, but people are finally agreeing to his ideas, maybe, would be a better way to put that.
Well, I'll tell you this, just to close on PUBG, I'm really excited to play PUBG on a console. I just prefer to sit on a couch to play video games.
Right.
Like, I'm glad that I spend too much time sitting in front of my computer already. Even if I can find 2 hours to go sit on the couch to play a game, it's nice to get out of that like little prison that I live in 6 days a week for 14 hours a day. So I'm really excited for the Xbox One release of this. I think I'll play it a lot more on Xbox One than I did on PC, I guess.
I'm kind of waiting to see, because I don't have this on anything yet. So I'm waiting to see. I'm waiting to see what the performance looks like on Xbox.
Well, they said this week that Microsoft has treated it like a first-party game. So we'll see if that comes shining through. Next up, Bayonetta 3.
Didn't expect this one.
No, I don't think anybody did.
They are going to make fetch happen with this series if it kills them.
We're not showing the teaser trailer of this, by the way, because if we show that insignificant 10-second clip Nintendo put out, this whole episode will be flagged and we won't be able to monetize it. So we're not showing it to you guys. If you want to see it, go watch it on Sifted.net. It doesn't show anything anyway. It's
isn't that going to happen
logo.
anyway with Xenoblade?
What'd you say?
Isn't that going to happen anyway with Xenoblade?
It's all gameplay. So I'm hoping that Nintendo's crazy...
So the algorithm can't detect their
Sometimes
B-roll?
it'll find if they put out the B-roll, yes.
Yeah.
But if we actually capture it, or if we do live
It slips
gameplay,
through sometimes.
Sometimes it still picks up on the HUD. It's crazy, man. It's really nuts. Anyway, we're trying to make this show so we can monetize it. So we're not going to show Bayonetta 3, but I was shocked that they made another game, because the last one tanked. And they're putting out 1 and 2 again on the Switch.
Which makes sense, because, anything exclusive to the Wii U you can put on the Switch is probably not a bad idea, because you've got a much larger audience at play at this point, or will, like, moving into next year. You may also want to do that with Pikmin 3, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, where's Pikmin 4?
Yeah, too. But, like, look, Pikmin 3 has been out of print. It's costs a lot of money now if you want it on the Wii U. People don't have it on the Wii U. Like, figure it out.
Yeah.
But, like, I mean, I like the Bayonetta game, so I'm glad they're making another one. But I'm just like, I can't believe they're still plugging away at this thing. Like,
I have a feeling Platinum probably was like, really? They want to make another one?
I mean, you can't say that there's, you can't say it's redundant in the library, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing else like it in the Switch library, at least until
any library.
Until Devil May Cry shows up, if they make it for that.
Crazy. But
like, they don't have a lot of character action games, is what I'm saying.
Because you're right. And even if you look at, okay, the Wii U didn't sell very well. The attach rate for that game was terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, the 10 million hardcore Nintendo fans don't care that much about Bayonetta, but it has reached a whole new audience with Switch. That
I know 3 people who are going to buy a Switch for Bayonetta 3.
Oh, wow.
So there is an
Well,
audience.
they'll probably look
small,
at it like Bayonetta 3 plus, wow, there's all these other good games that are out there already.
One of them is just like, I will buy the Bayonetta games, and that's it. Like, I don't care about Nintendo games, but I'll buy Bayonetta wherever they put it.
Well, it's going to sell it to somebody at least.
Yeah, that's one.
There's one.
There you go.
But I am shocked that they're making this. Not surprised at the ports from 1 and 2, because look, Nintendo put a lot of money into 2.
Might as well.
And it sold awful. So might as well try to recoup.
I bought it.
I mean, look, that port cost probably nothing to get running on Switch. Literally, probably like nothing.
Especially since the PC version already exists. It's probably a pretty, the hardware is similar enough. It's probably a pretty easy move.
Yeah. But 3, wow, that's a big risk. It looks like Nintendo's funding the whole thing, and...
Well, we'll see. I mean, great. Like, I'll buy it.
I'm just glad we get to play a third game. I never thought we'd see one.
That's cool. Like, it's a hole in the Switch library that will fill. And so, like, especially if, like, people don't know if Devil May Cry 5 or whatever is going to come to Switch, like, this kind of takes care of that in a nice way. It's a similar kind of game.
Yeah.
We'll see. Like, I'm glad it's there. It was a nice surprise.
Yeah. I think my biggest disappointment at the show, as far as like new trailers or whatever, was Metro Exodus. This game looked absolutely amazing at E3. Was honestly one of kind of the darlings of E3. It was kind of shown as a showcase for Xbox One X 4K. It's not that the game looked bad or anything. I just felt like the trailer was just completely uninteresting and boring. It just seemed like a setup trailer. Like, this is what happened, this is why, this is happening. Very little action. You didn't really get to see the highlight of the game, which is the creatures all that much.
Yeah, I got the gist of what it's about, I guess, in the sense. Okay, so this one dude, this place called Exodus, is he thinks he can rig this train up and they can get out. And that's probably what the thrust of the game is going to be. Snowpiercer Monster Edition kind of thing, We'll see. I mean, it's cool. Great.
I mean, it's just a bunch of environmental pans for the most part.
I will say this, man. You look at look at the breadth of trailers and stuff that's like out for this and PSA. We got a real thing about snow right now in games. Like, just people trudging through the snow is like a thing right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I was really excited when this came on, and then after I watched it, I was like, oh, I expected more, I guess, is the best way to put it. It's not bad. My expectations of this game are pretty high after E3, so. You
gotta save the blowout stuff for the big events, which is probably E3. We'll see some more stuff.
I mean, I think the Game Awards is becoming a big event.
Yeah, it'll get there, probably.
It already kind of is. I mean,
but if you're working on a game in like Russia, you may not know that.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's E3.
They made a thing. I mean, it's cool.
I mean, let's rank events for like debuts. There's E3, obviously the biggest. I mean, this might be bigger than Gamescom now.
Yeah, depending on the Gamescom.
It's definitely bigger than TGS.
Oh yeah, we're bigger than TGS.
In a lot of years, it'll probably be bigger than Paris Games Week. I mean, this is kind of the second biggest event for premieres in the world now.
Yeah.
That's crazy to think about what Jeff's created there.
Well, that's like, because I'm sure he saw that empty space. I mean, it would be better, if it took place in February like every other awards, but we have got to give that the holiday marketing boost to the publishers because that's why they're even interested.
Yep.
But like, there's nothing else at this time of year. So it's kind of a handy gap to fill.
And I mean, at this point, he's beaten PSX's butt. Like,
well,
PSX was the next day and it had nothing. I mean, this show had everything.
I feel like Sony doesn't care, but like they're not after that for PSX this year.
All right, next we're going to talk about the
we'll see.
most controversial part of the award show, which was hands down the guy from A Way Out, Joseph Fares.
Faris, I don't know.
Faris.
He's just Joseph to me.
Broseph.
Bro. That's actually what I said. I was like chatting with people while the show was going on, and when he said "fuck the Oscars," I just typed in "bro," like
Broseph.
and you could see Jeff losing his patience as the segment
I think
went
Jeff
on.
regrets saying, "Yeah, you can swear."
Yeah.
Because then the guy just unleashed.
Like, here we go. Yeah. Also, maybe regretting having the open bar for the nominees.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening here, but it was not. It was like something out of the room.
I mean, he was kind of like this when he showed the game off the first time.
Yeah.
He was gregarious and like probably said a couple things he shouldn't have said.
Well, I saw people throwing around like there was that leak of like EA's like internal like strategy things, and like they list him as like a good asset because he's passionate, but watch out for controversy. Like they basically like internally they know like he's a loose cannon, but he could be an asset if you manage him right.
Well, then he kind of went after EA a little bit over loot boxes, and I
Yeah.
mean that was kind of a recurring theme throughout the whole show. Is
and
that
it's like
EA was getting
and then
some
like
shots.
saying stuff like he was.
Then he flips off the camera like, "Wow, look at Jeff. Here's awkward
Jeff's like,
time. Here's awkward time." Here's like, okay, he's thinking to himself, "How do I get him off the stage without looking like a jackass?"
Yep.
He's ruining our show. He's taking away all the class from this show that I worked so hard to build. But look, he knew.
Yeah, it was a little bit like he visited from one of the Spike shows.
Yeah. He's having flashbacks right now. Oh my God, have I been transported back to 2007 VGAs? Because this is the type of stuff that would happen at the VGAs back then.
And it's also a little bit like you're real bold for having a game that I think is one of the most least interesting things I've seen all year. Like,
well, Brothers, I think he's riding the crest of Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons.
But like Way Out is like that game is not. I'm just gonna call it. That game's not gonna sell well. It's not.
It's probably not.
It's not interesting looking if you just glance at it. I think the concept of this sort of couch co-op like dedicated game is an interesting one, but the premise of like two dickheads break out of prison and then take a tour of the people that they haven't seen in a while. I mean, there is nothing interesting about this game.
I mean, he should be very happy. I kind of like the gameplay, how the split screen co-op stuff
I like
works.
that, but nothing about the trappings and the narrative of this game make me interested in any way.
Oh, I agree with that 1,000%. He should be thanking his lucky stars that EA signed this game.
Yeah.
Like he shouldn't be taking veiled shots at them at the Game Awards.
And you're just like, I mean, just the amount of polygons they have to use on Leo's nose is. I know that's what the guy really looks like.
That's going to drop the frame
but,
rate
yeah,
at least
it's
2
just gonna
frames per
tank it.
second.
Like, that's why it's 900p. I'm going to tell you that right now. I shouldn't make fun of somebody's appearance like that, but like it's so freaking distracting.
It really is. You're right.
Because for some because the guy it's based on, I think is his brother or something. Is like it
seems like it could be.
He looks like
he does
like that, but that person in real life looks way better than the character model in the game. Like the character model in the game for some reason just doesn't work for me.
How do you feel about this outburst like this at award shows? Like in general, not just with the Game Awards, but at any award show.
It's just kind of tacky.
Yeah, I feel that way too.
And like it's like, yeah, you can say fuck the Oscars all you want because it's not like the Oscars are like, you know,
care.
It's not like the Oscars care. It's also not like the Oscars have their finger on the pulse of what, you know, the mainstream moviegoer wants to see.
Right, yeah, they have
like,
no clue anyway.
Yeah, I mean, this award show at least like is awarding the things that the people who play games like for the most part. But like, there's no call for that. There's no need. You take the high road once, and like that's the problem is like this show, other than this segment, did take that high road. You know, it just celebrated what it was and celebrated what we're talking about, and it did it the right way. And then here comes this guy, and he just comes off like a weirdo.
And look, I'm not giving Jeff a pass on this because he knew very well.
Oh, he knew who he was putting there.
That the potential for something like this to happen was there, and he was probably hoping, like, hey, if things go wrong, at least virally the next day, we're probably gonna have this loose cannon who will probably say something inappropriate or whatever, and. It worked because this was really the big story the next day after the award show.
Right, I mean, you found the new Dave Jaffe. Congratulations. You know?
You're right. That's a good way to put it. He is kind of the new David Jaffe. But Jaffe does it on purpose. This guy, I can't figure out whether he's just a con, or if he's really just this aloof and...
Or is he drunk?
I don't know.
Is he just happy? Like, I can't tell.
I can't figure it out either. He is happy because EA's paying him to make this game that nobody else would probably pay for, so... Let's talk about very quickly Fade to Silence. This game was broken before the show started. It actually got out the day of. It's like a snowbound survival game from THQ Nordic. Do we need more of these? Like you were talking about snow earlier. Well, here's another one. It's just the whole thing is snow. And this game is about fighting off a winter and surviving a winter. But I can't even tell you how many games.
Bit of Fortnite.
Yeah.
There.
I can't even tell you how many games I've added to the Sifted database in the last 12 months that is survive the winter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a thing now.
Because you can do snow now.
Yeah, and it doesn't look terrible, although this game doesn't look particularly good.
Yeah, it doesn't look too great, but like, okay, sure. Oh, the space shuttle. Why is it snowing where the space shuttle is? Isn't that in Florida? I don't know.
Yeah, when people are saying the show was too long, and I do agree with it, the show was too long.
Yeah.
Like, there were many times where I was like, wait, what time does this thing end?
Yeah.
This is the type of stuff you don't need to put in the show to get it out to that 2.5 hour mark or whatever it was.
3.
Was it 3?
The pre-show started at 5:30, and then like the show ended around like 8:40 or something.
Right.
And like I remember it was somewhere around like 7 o'clock in the chat. I was like, we're halfway through, and the other people are like, no. Really?
Well, my wife came back and she's
8,
like,
right?
Because my wife was waiting to like make dinner until this was over. And she come back, she's like, that thing's still going? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, it's been like 3 hours. And I'm like, I know.
Yep.
And this is the type of stuff that he could have cut out of the show and shaved off some time. Like, it didn't need to be in there.
I don't think you need to start the show with a long interview between Keely and Bosman justifying the existence of the show.
No.
Like,
that was all scripted and weird, too. And... yeah, I wasn't a fan of the whole pre-show. Was kind of like whatever.
Yeah, it was all a giant apology for last year. Almost.
It really
was.
Like,
like, man, just do it better this time.
Yeah,
which he did. Like,
he did.
People
let the show speak for itself.
And people haven't even mentioned that first thing with Bosman, with the interview with Bosman, because I think the show itself said what that segment wanted to say, but said it by doing it.
Yep.
So I don't think they needed that.
Now here's my dark horse game for the show. Most people probably didn't pay any attention to it, but it really caught my eye. It's called Witchfire.
No, this looked good. I thought this looked good.
Yeah, this is...
For a second, I was like, oh, not the Vanishing Ethan Carter guys. You know, like, what is this
well, they set it up like this is like a sequel.
Like another walking simulator
I love how they did this, man. You're like, oh, a walking simulator, and it's from the team behind The Vanishing of Ethan Show. So it is a walking simulator, and then they just turn it all on its head, and it becomes like this...
like, oh, yeah, the painkiller guys. Yeah. You're like, oh, okay, now I'm in. Yeah.
It's really brilliant how they did this trailer. And then they show the game, and it's like Bloodborne, the first-person shooter, which I've been talking about on this show for a while. I'm like, when is there going to be a first-person shooter that plays like Bloodborne or Dark Souls? I don't know that this is it, but that's what it looks like.
But it definitely shares some art direction ideas.
Yeah, but also Painkiller and Bulletstorm. And then they just showed this crazy, like, dark, like, witchcraftian, like...
I had some Hexen flashbacks.
Yeah, that would be another good comparison.
Which is not an insult at all.
No, not at all. No.
I really like the Painkiller games for the most part, so I'm interested.
Yep, that caught my eye for sure as one of the smaller games that I was really impressed with. Let's talk about one of the bigger games that I was not impressed with, though, and that is Soul Calibur 6.
Your soul did not burn.
It really did not.
It looks like Soul Calibur.
It looks like it was made for, like, last gen. Like, the visuals in this game just... Ugh. I don't know, dude. We talked about Soul Calibur 6
which is,
a couple weeks ago. We started
seems
hearing,
like a remake of Soul Calibur 1.
That's what they're saying it is.
Yeah.
They're saying it's a reboot for the franchise and kind of a remaster of the first Soul Calibur, which I'm okay with.
Sure, I mean, might as well go back to the best one.
Yep, but it doesn't look very good.
Yeah, like if you had told me this was Soul Calibur 5, I might believe you.
Yeah.
Like it feels like you've plateaued a little bit.
It just feels like they've just taken the assets from the last game.
Also, Mitsurugi's really young here. Like even in the original Soul Calibur, who's sort of the grizzled dude. Like,
but that's why they said that everyone does look younger. Is
everyone's
because
so pretty.
Yeah. But they milked this one battle for all it was worth. They put out the trailer in the Game Awards, which was kind of more cinematic, and then
And they just ran the 2 fights, basically.
Yeah, now they just put out this trailer that just has the fights all by themselves.
And I mean, the main difference seems to be that they have like a super move kind of thing that is more...
There's some kind of weird like parry thing going on.
Well, they always had that, but like it's more pronounced now. But now everybody has this like kind of like super attack thing that I don't think was really part of at least I don't remember it from the original.
Yeah, I don't either. Well, definitely not in the original.
Yeah.
For sure it wasn't in the original game. But I kind of fell off with Soul Calibur. I think the last one I played extensively was 4, probably.
Yeah, I mean, apparently I played 5, but as like last week we couldn't remember what was in each Soul Calibur game, so clearly it didn't make a huge impression on me.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm glad another Soul Calibur game's coming because it does play differently from a lot of other fighting games, and I appreciate that about it. But it wasn't exactly an auspicious debut.
No, see if it can crack the kind of the fighting game community hive mind a little bit. Like,
it appears Tekken 7 is starting to.
Yeah, Tekken 7 has gained more traction than I thought it would.
Yeah, I mean it's esports community is really starting
the
to build.
Capcom Cup is this weekend. The Street Fighter V Top 32 is happening right now.
Oh, really?
Not that you should stop watching us to watch that.
Right.
I might be watching it right here. But
let's see. There's just one last game to talk about from the Game Awards. And it's probably the one that has the most mystery behind it. And people
we're
are
not going to talk about In the Valley of the Gods?
No. I had to make some cuts. We couldn't talk about every single thing. Although that game did look pretty cool.
I mean, it's Firewatch guys, so I'm into it.
Firewatch guys. It's about
ancient Egypt. I'm into that.
Woman in the 20s, filmmaker in ancient Egypt.
2 women.
Well, it's not even ancient Egypt. It's just the 20s.
Yeah, well, ancient archaeologist.
Yeah.
I think they might be together. I think their rings match.
Oh, really?
That's what I thought. I thought I saw that. I was looking. I don't know if I quite nailed it, but it looked like maybe.
I'm congested, by the way, because LA is burning to the ground.
Yeah, it's the air quality has not been tops.
I have been taking allergy medicine for 4 days. I had not taken an allergy pill in like 2 years. And I've had to take it all week because our city is like burning down to the ground.
Yeah, air quality's okay today. But yesterday the wind changed and all the smoke from the Santa Barbara Ventura fires floated over the city, and it looked like some kind of apocalyptic scene.
The whole inside of our apartment is covered in ash. Yeah. Ash. It's not dust. It's ash. Yeah. It came through screens.
Everyone's car is too. Like
Crazy.
If you look at all the cars are covered in brown and black ash.
Yeah, but so I didn't want to talk about In the Valley of Gods. I wanted to talk about the new From Software game.
Because that's got a lot to it.
Well, you're going to watch this teaser for the next 5 minutes while we talk about it, looped over and over again. So there's lots of debate online. A lot of people swear it's Bloodborne 2. Mm-hmm. There's another faction that says it's a new Tenchu game. Where do you fall, Matt?
Well, it's the same font as Bloodborne. And then I heard, I haven't been able to confirm this anywhere, but while this was happening, I heard someone said that they were watching it on Mixer, Microsoft streaming service, and they didn't show this. They showed something else.
They cut it out.
They cut this out, which to me would say Sony exclusive.
Interesting.
Which would point to Bloodborne. It could
I
also...
mean, the fact that it says twice, doesn't that mean it would be like a sequel, like the second game in a franchise?
I mean, the Shadows reference is Shadows Fall Twice thing is also it could be a valid reference to Tenchu because Rikimaru dies and comes back. You've got the Japanese writing on the scroll behind. Is
that Japanese writing back there?
Yeah.
Oh, then it's probably Tenchu.
Or it's Bloodborne in a different part of the world, like you don't know. Because that kind of
Bloodborne take part in any world?
It can take place wherever you want it to, and
right.
And that kind of
But wherever it would take place,
that kind of bio
Japanese?
horror look thing, that's not part of Tenchu. Like that's
doesn't appear.
I mean, I will take a new Tenchu game anytime you want to throw one at me. I mean, I got no problem with that. But
I mean, I'll admit,
and they might just be choosing the Bloodborne font to try to make you think that's what it is. I mean, From Software likes to mess with you a little bit.
I'll admit, first blush, I thought Bloodborne 2 without a doubt,
just
based upon the visual. But if that's really Japanese writing on that scroll behind there, then I don't think it is Bloodborne.
It could be.
Because I don't think Bloodborne takes place in our existence. I don't think if there's any writing or anything in a Bloodborne game, it's nothing. It's something that they created.
Right, but that also means you can put anything in there.
Yeah, but there'd be no Japan in a world like that. There'd be no America. There'd be no anything. It's just this void of
there
whatever.
There can be anything you want.
Yeah. To me, I think that points more towards Tenchu. But I agree with you.
I think
whatever that thing is, that looks 100% Bloodborne.
Yeah, well, I think it could point to anything. I mean, it could point, doesn't have to be Tenchu.
What is that thing?
It looks like an arm.
It's an arm?
An arm, or it's a limb of some kind.
Really?
Like
I thought it was some weird
look,
kind of device or something.
No, there's bone up at the. I mean, there's a bone.
Oh, you're right. There is a bone there.
It's like a fake
it's
forearm
like a fake
or something.
leg or something.
Leg or forearm, yeah.
It's crazy. Never has 3 seconds of video generated so much conversation.
So
Exciting nonetheless.
I mean, sure. I'll play whatever the hell they want to throw at me at this point. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, I was kind of open for a new Armored Core at some point.
From's been talking about Armored Core.
Yeah. I
They
mean,
said it's going to bring it back. Obviously,
I'm
I
guessing
think
this
that's
is not
it.
I mean, that would be a very different direction.
It sure would. Yeah, I don't think robots bleed, but
unless like the new thing is like, oh well, that you basically like strip somebody down to the bones and install them into the mech, like some kind of body horror. Mech
I think that's
game.
a big stretch, but
it's a pretty big stretch to say that means ninjas too.
No,
but,
you're right.
You know,
yeah, you're absolutely right. Unless
people
it's a ninja coming back.
It could
from the
just be
dead.
something completely different. It could be Shadow Tower. We don't know.
Yeah,
like
right.
they have a lot of properties to work with if they want to. And Miyazaki said he's tired of doing Dark Souls.
Yeah.
So. Or it could be, if it wasn't already out, I might look at that and think, oh, maybe it's Neo.
Yeah.
But like, it could also be like they're going to do a same thing they did with Demon Souls and Dark Souls. Like they have to make something that isn't that to get away from the Sony exclusivity. So they're just making not Bloodborne, but it's in Japan or something.
Like that.
There's a lot of things it could be. I don't think we're going to know for a while yet.
Yeah. I'm surprised Jeff got that.
Right. Well, I'm just glad that it's just nice to see. It's like, okay, more's coming.
Yeah.
Something's coming. Like it's happening.
I'm really surprised Jeff.
Whatever it is, I feel like most Souls fans are on board with whatever they want to throw.
I'm just trying to think what contact he worked to get that.
That's a good question. I don't know.
I don't either.
There's also so many people saying that like one of the buried in that kind of like the blood part there that is a kunai, like a like a ninja throwing knife. Like, that could be that. I mean, I don't know.
We're not going to find out for a long.
We're just doing what they want us to do right now. Like just babble
is,
about From Software's new game.
That's one of those files that's going to sit on the TriCaster for a really long time before we ever run it again. Probably a really, really long time.
But just in case.
Yep, just in case. So that's it. That's the Game Awards. I don't think you'll find a more robust wrap-up or a more informed wrap-up as well, obviously, as two people who have worked on gaming award shows for multiple years. So hopefully you enjoyed the discussion. Next, we're going to talk about Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Came out last week. We didn't really have time to play it. You had played like an hour before the show. Wanted to wait until you spent some more time with it. The reviews, people seem to be loving the game.
Yeah. Okay. I'm a big fan of Xenoblade Chronicles 1. I think that was one of the best JRPGs in years. I like Xenoblade Chronicles X, although I thought the anime stuff got a little overbearing in places. But I kind of was able to get past that in the sense that like the environment and the world was so interesting to explore. And I played that for like 40 hours, and I finally got my mech, and I realized that the mech just made everything more annoying.
Yeah.
And I kind of tapered off. This game has all the anime nonsense plus some, and scales back the interesting world. I don't like this game very much.
Wow.
I think the
Matt, I mean, you're a huge Xenoblade fan.
Oh yeah. But this is I did a little digging and research, and like basically this game is made by the B team at Monolith. They brought in a lot of.
Well, we were wondering how are they going to get this game done.
They brought in a lot of help from Tri-Ace because a lot of the people that made the first game what it was got pulled over to Breath of the Wild.
Oh, okay.
Which, if you played both Xenoblade 1 and Breath of the Wild, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So this is a lot of Tri-Ace talent on this, which maybe explains why the characters look like they escaped from a canceled Star Ocean game.
Yeah, they do.
And it's real standard anime nonsense a lot of times without the mitigating factor of this big world to explore and these interesting things to see, because like the environments just seem a little more folded in than there's still interesting stuff, and there's still imaginative monsters, and there's still like open spaces to run around in, but I just don't feel like it's not at the scale and it's not at the level of the last two games. Because even if you hated every single story element of Xenoblade Chronicles X, you stepped out into that world and you're like, wow, this looks like an alien biome. I mean, there's so many interesting things to look at and see in that world, and there's not so much of that in this game. Not so far, anyway. I'm 16 hours in, and one of the menu items is still blanked out. So I mean, it's not a small game. And
I don't think you suspected it was.
The combat's still good. Like, the combat is solid, and more or less. Like I think because they've added this thing where, well, I guess we could just.
Now let's just get to it. So we're going to do a play view. The combat system in this game is...
Combat system is very is intricate in the sense that like there's a lot of stuff to do all the time. This is in the first major city you come to, so it's an early area. So what you see here, so the kid in blue is Rex. He's the main character. The girl in the stripper outfit is his is the human personification of the sword on his back. So each of these, so the characters here, the girl in the yellow is a real person, and the little potato-looking bird Ewok thing is a real thing. And then the cat and the little robo girl, they're the personifications of their weapons. They're called blades. So people who have a blade, they are called drivers. There's a driver and their blade, and the blade kind of stands back and like shoots like a beam of energy at you during a fight, and that's where you get your abilities to do like fancy things. And like a whole lot of the blades are like hot chicks for reasons.
Surprise!
Well, it is a surprise to me because that hasn't really been part of Xenoblade Chronicles 1 at all. Like they didn't have that in Xenoblade Chronicles. They had it in,
every
X.
other Japanese game.
But X had a lot of skimpy clothing and nonsense like that. But
controversially skimpy clothing.
So that's how you get your resources. But this is the first area with real actual open zones you can run around in, and it's very influenced by MMOs. So everybody's got a different level. Wander into the wrong area, and you're gonna have to fight like higher level guys, and they will kill you. Like if you wander the wrong place, things will kill. And as a matter of fact, somewhere around here, I don't see them.
At least they're clearly labeled, though.
They can be, but like the size of the enemy is an issue. So somewhere around here, there's a giant ape. There he is. So he's level 81.
He's just running around the level 9 and 10s.
And if you encounter him in the wrong place, he will one-shot you. He is also, if you see that little that curly thing behind the level thing, you see that little icon? That means he's a unique, which means he's even more powerful than a normal level 81.
Oh, jeez.
So if he hits me, he'll take off like something like 8,000 hit points in one go, and I think
Is it easy for that to happen, or
yes,
it is?
If you're not paying attention to your surrounding, because he makes like a circuit around here, and if you're not paying attention to what's happening, he will just come through and kill you.
Because in some ways, it's good to kind of entice you with the higher level enemies, as long as you know they're not going to slaughter you. What is the detriment to dying?
Nothing. You basically start at your last fast travel point, and there's a lot of them. You don't really miss anything. So here we go. We're just going to start killing wolves. So you sit here and you auto attack. The other two guys fight kind of on their own. You have these your abilities are in the lower right there, and you see that little pop there.
Yeah.
So if I use one during a combo, that little pop, that thing happens, and I get to a little bonus on my damage. So, and
how much control do you have over the other two people attacking?
Very little. So so periodically you'll see on the sides the like that there says Aqua. So I can hit ZR and she will use her super attack thing. And depending on, so that shows like which kind of super attacks you're gonna.
And they're both mapped to the shoulder buttons.
The two triggers.
Yeah.
And then so I can activate that, and then I can activate my own. So this is my own super move, which will work in conjunction with theirs to create different effects. So like if I use because I'm fire, so if I use fire and then she uses heat, we'll get like a steam bomb thing that will do a little extra damage.
So there are kind of elemental sort of tag team.
There are elemental things, and then if you use like on certain enemies, you use them high enough, and like they'll become immune. So like you'll see like that Aqua thing now. That enemy is resistant to Aqua for a time.
Why is that though?
Because it wasn't complicated enough as it was. Because
it just randomly happens, or is there a reason why all of a sudden
you use an Aqua?
You use it once and then they have a resistance.
Yeah, and then like
so it keeps you from spamming the same attack.
You can't just spam, and then like you'll see a little tree appear in the upper right, and that will kind of like dictate.
Look at that HUD, dude.
Yeah, it's just constant.
It is just cluttered.
Their algorithm's going to see this shit no problem. Like,
I mean, look at that right now. That whole screen is just covered with something. It's insane. How long does it take you to really kind of get the hang of it?
Well, they ease you into it pretty well, but it doesn't explain a lot of stuff very well. So I'm not even sure I'm totally right about what I'm telling you right now, if I'm being honest. But I'm not dying, and that's all I care about.
Right,
you know what I mean? And there's still, if you look at the, I can't go to the menu right now, but I will once this fight. And you'll see, like, we pulled a bunch of extra wolves in on this, like, during the, and you got to run around and pick up stuff, like, physically or before it disappears.
Oh, it does disappear.
It can disappear. So there's a lot of that going on.
How is the leveling as far as, like,
it's fine. It's
paced well.
It's paced okay, and actually they give you a lot of control over that because we got more attacks. Somebody came in. Okay, more
wolves.
So it's actually paced in an interesting way because so what happens is when you do side quests and stuff, you get you get items and you get gold and stuff. You get XP, but that XP is not actually. I can do a super here with the cutscene here. So this is your level 4 move.
So how do you trigger that? What does it take to...
You just have to keep using your arts, your moves down there, and you'll see... so you see, I use that, and you'll see the square on the right. Yeah. That is the super move.
Oh, okay.
With your blade art thing. So the more I use that, it'll fill... So now you see it says 1.
Right.
So now the more I do that, it'll fill up to a maximum of 4, and 4 is your kind of cutscene super move thing. And they're all of a various form of what you call it, QTE stuff. There's always going to be a little, and some
you had to jam the B button there.
Yeah, and also if you let your companions save up their super stuff, like during boss fights and stuff, they will use cutscene related super moves that you have to do the same kind of QTEs on. So the boss fights can actually get pretty crazy.
I bet.
And pretty. Long. I've had a couple of long fights.
I mean, these fights, just to hack up a couple of wolves, it takes forever.
It's just going and going and going. And these guys are level 9. I'm level 20.
Wow.
I mean, this is how long this is taking.
Oh, wow.
And actually, that's a good tip if you are going to play this. Early on, you're kind of set off into this when a character gets kidnapped and somebody's missing, and you're kind of set loose in this area. And I started trying to do side quests just with Rex and just got housed.
Really?
You are not.
These enemies have so many hit points.
Yeah, you are not supposed to be out here without at least 2 other companions, really. So be aware that if you're like me and you want to complete everything before you move on, you're probably not going to be able to do that in a lot of cases.
Interesting. Does that drive you crazy?
It's all right. So the side quests give you XP, and the trick is it doesn't apply it directly to your character. There goes Big Dude back there.
I mean, he could have just walked in there and just destroyed you guys.
So it applies the XP from the quests and the side quests to your character, and you don't get access to that unless you go sleep at an inn. And then you get to choose to level up your characters with that extra XP. And the idea is that it's there if you want to overpower your character, or if you want to kind of have more of a challenge, you can not level them up with that XP and stay at a lower level.
So you only really get one sort of super attack. Is always the same one.
Yeah. At least so far, but the trick is that so the blade thing, like I said, everybody's got these blades. If this fight ever finishes, I will show you.
Wolves, dude.
And I don't even.
Sorry, these wolves.
Wolves, yeah. And I don't even maybe I'm doing something wrong, and that's why we're getting it's taking so long. I don't really know. But all I know is
does the game not do a great job of teaching you all this stuff?
I don't think it does. I don't feel like it does. And there is actually a vendor where you can buy tips for things, but I haven't done that because I'm low on money.
You have to pay in-game currency for tips.
Yeah, we got another wolf. I don't see.
You must be near a spawn point or something.
Maybe, but that shouldn't. You shouldn't.
What was that right there? That QTE.
That was a low level super
okay.
I used because I just want to set them on fire so I can get a little extra damage off.
Yeah.
So you'll see here, so I'm doing that thing. I popped so there's no healing skills really.
Really?
What it is you'll see health potions will just pop out of the enemies, and so the idea is you have certain arts that are guaranteed to create a health potion. The problem comes when
oh my god, did you kill them? No, there's still one left.
There's still one left. The problem comes when you're fighting in a lot of the weird the weird geography because you're fighting up on cliffs and everything. Those potions can just fall off the cliff and stuff.
That drove me crazy in Breath of the Wild too. How stuff after you kill an enemy, it can just fall down a cliff and it's just gone.
And it's just there's a constant polish problem with this game. I think it is one of the most unpolished. It feels rushed. It feels like one of the most unpolished things I've ever seen Nintendo publish.
So maybe it shouldn't have come out.
Maybe
we were
not.
right by saying it shouldn't. It
Maybe
won't
not.
come out this year.
And it's weird. And like constantly stuff's getting stuck in geometry. Stuff's falling through the world.
Oh, really? That's very rare for a Nintendo game.
It's extremely weird. Normally, this kind of stuff does not make it through Nintendo's.
You would also think too that, hey, we got Mario coming out. Do we really need this? Why not push it back to March?
As much as I wanted to play this, I feel like that's a valid question.
Yeah.
Like it's still going. It really it's still.
The wolves will not stop.
Can't kill all the wolves. I swear.
So Matt,
is that it? More? Oh, you. Okay, we're moving over here.
Yeah. I think you're in a spawn area or something where they just keep spawning.
But you see what I mean? Like I've never run into that before. Like there we go.
Maybe go to the level up screen.
Yeah,
so everyone can see it.
So let me show. I'll just show you this. So you got your character and their blade, and this is another blade I've equipped. So you can get more blades, loot box style, if everybody's ready for that. So what you do is you can go to your blades, and you go to Bond Blade, and I'm gonna get a new. So you can pick one of these two, because the other character I'll get into, but that is. So these are you're common. There's rare. There's very rare. And you can boost them using these like little extra things that you pick up. I haven't really figured out the significance of that. So you do this, and he'll open this thing, and they could have microtransaction this. I'm surprised that you don't get these through amiibos.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that you can't use amiibos and get Metroid themed blades or Zelda themed.
That would have been smart, actually. That'd have been a good idea.
Maybe they didn't have time to get it in. So here we go. So now this blade came out of this. He's got a sword. This is not a rare blade. He's just sort of a standard gray guy.
Quite an elaborate entrance.
Oh yeah, they do it up.
This gives me a little bit of a Persona vibe.
A little bit.
Yeah.
So you can set him however you want. I'm not going to right now. You've got a blade album. So these are all the rare ones. And you can see there's silhouettes. Most of them are hot girls.
Again, reminds me a lot of Persona.
Yeah. Yeah. It's real anime. Look at that. That's some Sailor Moon shit right there. So this one seems to have a guitar or a broom.
Yeah, Flying V, it looks like.
So I haven't gotten any of these. I've cashed in a lot of these, but they're actually really rare. And if you go all the way down here, I think you will see that is the Cosmos from Xenoblade.
Oh wow!
So there's a guest character, at least one guest character in here.
So Matt, it seems like you have a lot of small, maybe not even small, issues with this game.
Yeah.
That have added up.
Yeah, well, for instance, okay, so narratively, I just think it's kind of creepy in a lot of ways, because all the blades are sort of their servants or their pets, and some of them are hot girls, and then you kind of have the obvious connection there. So the little guy there, he can't bond with a blade, because it's if you don't bond properly, it kills you or hurts you or something. So he built this one, the girl there, Poppy.
It's a robot.
It's a robot blade. So he built her. And when she comes to life, and she's got this maid persona at first, and he's got a closet full of maid outfits for her, and Pyra, your blade here, she's oh, that's weird, that's not cool, and I'm you are an indentured servant weapon persona dressed like a stripper who is later forced to cook for the whole party on a regular basis. And I'm the game's got a tone problem, okay? That just didn't exist in Xenoblade Chronicles 1. That wasn't a thing. And everyone's wearing the frickin' Final Fantasy X belt things and everything. There's no
I'm not a fan of the art style in this at all, really.
But that's the thing is the art style doesn't even say, because no one's dressed like that in town.
Right.
It's I don't think it hangs together very well in that regard, and the story is very standard anime trope. I'll defend you, and we have to, get her there because we're friends. There's a lot of chatter during the battles because like that's just
One thing I have
what
read
Xenoblade
about
does.
this though is that the game's story gets good at the end.
Well, it doesn't,
At like
it
the
doesn't
70
help, yeah,
hour
it doesn't help you
mark.
70 hours in. But it's like there's like a whole because everybody else is kind of like in a normal fantasy game, and we're all running around like we're about to head to Comic-Con. It's
this game is a good value though, right?
I mean, if
you spend $60, you're gonna get 80 to 90 hours out of it.
If you don't, I mean, there's also not really anything like it on the system.
Yeah.
Like, if the anime garbage doesn't bother you, like you're golden, basically.
Yeah.
It does bother me, and even this is speaking as someone who having now unpacked all my DVDs and Blu-rays was like, wow, I have a lot of anime. But I'm very picky about that stuff, and like.
What was that? Is that flying it through the air there?
Oh no, that's the shadow of the windmill thing. The lighting in this is definitely. People were complaining that like this runs at like 720 a handheld or low.
I'm not surprised. By
low
that
handheld and like 900, maybe 720 docked as well. I don't remember. I don't remember the Digital Foundry thing. But like everyone's like, oh, it doesn't look any different from Xenoblade Chronicles X. No, the lighting in this is a big step up.
Yeah,
like,
you can tell.
Like there's a lot going on here with the lighting and like. Again, I don't think the world is as interesting in terms of geography, but like it does look nice, and it's a
little rough.
It's a little rough, but it captures something. You know what I mean? The other thing that bugs me is you got the mini map there, right?
Yeah.
And if I hit the L3, you can see like a larger map of the same area, which doesn't really help me that much. And if I click it again, it's gone. So that's the only map you have, unless if you want to see where something is in kind of the larger area you're in, you have to hit start. You have to go to the skip travel, fast travel. You got to figure out where you are. You got to hit that, and then you got to figure out what part of that area you're in, and then you can scroll through all this and see a larger map. That's how you get to any. That's the only map you have access to.
Wow.
And I'm like,
I have a feeling that might be patched.
I would think so. I just don't see the point of having to make me go through 4 screens to do that.
So you've played almost 20 hours of this. Do you think the reviews are off kilter here?
I just think a lot of people who reviewed this game don't mind the infiltration of the anime stuff the way I do. One of the reasons I loved Xenoblade Chronicles 1 was it didn't have this stuff in it. It was a straight up, I mean, it had some of it, but it was like a straight up fantasy game that played everything pretty straight. Everybody looked like they fit in the world. Nobody looked like they escaped from an Xseed game from the PS3. Like that's the other thing that bugs me. I mean, look, I'm not saying I haven't played those games. I'm pretty well versed in some of these things, and the whole Blade thing is played a little too close to the Revatail thing from the Artonelico series, and I know you don't know what I'm talking about right now.
Yeah. Oh, I do actually. I mean,
but those were games on the PS3, and they were by Gust, I think,
no,
or they were something Xseed or something. But basically, the Revatails were like robot girls who were like the same thing. They helped you fight. And they were there was sort of a weird relationship building boyfriend-girlfriend thing, and you had to upgrade them with crystals, and like upgrading them with the crystals, inserting the crystals in them was basically played like straight up softcore porn. Yeah. That is not here, obviously, because it's Nintendo, but there is a lot of weird innuendo.
But do they
about that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that. Do they act like the two, like you and the Blade might get together?
Oh yeah.
Oh really?
There's a lot of that, and there's a lot of like
But are they real? They're not real people, right?
I mean, they're real things. I don't know what they haven't really gone into. I mean, the cat is a real talking magic cat, who, by the way, is voiced by Vesemir from The Witcher.
Oh, really?
And so he'll be like herbs restore a soul. Kind of. I'm just like, thanks, Vesemir. We're cool. Yeah, we got it.
Should people buy this, Matt?
I mean, what it is not bad, but it's like. I don't like the tone, and I don't like the art direction in comparison to the first game, which is what I'm comparing it to strongest. Because Xenoblade Chronicles X also had that going on, but I gave it kind of a slide because it was not it wasn't the mainstream game. It was a side story kind of thing. It was a sci-fi thing more than fantasy. It was a completely different world. And it did the world thing very, very well. It felt like going to like Pandora or something from Avatar. It was like, wow, they really thought this place out, and it all hangs together. And I can't wait to see what's over that weird hill, and get my mech so I can jump up on top of those things and see the whole world from like laid out in front of me. And that's not here for me as much in this, not yet anyway. And I feel like at 20 hours in, I should have that if it's going to show up. And it's not bad. Like I don't like, but it's just not. It's not a thing like the first game where like I would wake up in the morning and like I got to go turn Xenoblade on again.
Wow. Okay.
And that isn't here for me in this game. And it's like the worst thing is like for this game, I could literally, if I brought the Switch upstairs, I could literally just pull it off the nightstand and turn it on as soon as I woke up.
And you're
but
not
I
doing it.
I don't do that. I'm I'm
so it doesn't
not,
have that same draw as the prior games.
No, I think the move into kind of being like this more standard anime trope thing has soured it for me. And if that doesn't bother you, then I mean it's very recognizably Xenoblade.
If you're a solo Switch owner, you don't have any other platforms. Once you finish up Mario, you're already finished with Zelda probably, or maybe not, depending on what we're going to talk about next. But this may be a nice gap filler for you until the next big thing comes out. Because the next big thing could be a ways away.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like and that depends on your definition of big thing, really. I mean, if you want to call the next big thing like the frickin'
a port of Smash
frickin'
Brothers.
Yoshi game, sure.
Yeah, no, the Yoshi and Kirby stuff do not fall into those.
Yeah, and there's little things you can like. I don't know if I have any. So these are like salvage points where like you use a cylinder and you play this little like QTE. There's a lot of QTE in this game. There's a little QTE thing, so that depending on how well you do on this.
What?
The better loot you find. So he's a salvager. That's his diving suit that he wears, and he'll come back up with a bunch of loot, and usually a treasure chest and like sometimes an enemy. And so the one thing before you fight the enemy, you got to pick all this stuff up because it'll disappear during the fight.
Right. I hate that. I hate that about any game where the loot disappears.
And if you are if you're fighting a boss and there's a cutscene afterwards, you will automatically get all the loot at the end of the fight.
Oh, that's
But
good.
if the fight lasts too long, it can blink out of existence. So you got to keep your eye on that.
Just leave it there, man.
I know.
Like, it's so simple.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. Yeah. But that's how they did it.
All right. Well, thanks for the demo, Matt. I think my biggest question was like, how does the combat system work? Because I've watched trailers, I've even read articles about it, and
I'm not sure I've helped you there at all.
No, I think you did, definitely, without a doubt. I mean, but it's like I was saying earlier with the HUD, there's so much information
there's a lot of
on the screen.
I mean, the secret is I just don't look at most of it. I look at my arts and I look at my health and I just try to keep on top of it.
You know what you need to do to attack.
That's all it is.
All right. Well, thanks for the demo, Matt. Mm-hmm. So there you go, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 out on Switch right now. It's actually been out for like a week now. Would you recommend maybe people waiting for a price drop on that game?
I don't know. I mean, it
is huge. I mean,
if you're unsure because of the change in tone and look, yeah, maybe wait. Because look, what you're looking at there, it's as bad as you think it is.
Yeah.
If you're looking at that and be like, oh, I don't like how they all look like they're out of some kind of mid-2000s harem anime, like, yeah, it is that. There's a lot of that, and there's a lot of that weird, awkward, like wacky humor that doesn't that you'd expect in like I don't know, like an Azumanga Daioh kind of thing, but like doesn't really fit into an epic fantasy quest sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I just find it old. I mean, I've been watching stuff like that since Urusei Yatsura back in the 80s, and it's just like I've seen it, and it's not done particularly well here. And like the story of the world and how this is all kind of fitting together is more interesting, and I just haven't seen a lot of that yet because it's a little glacially paced, and especially if you're trying to do enough side quests to kind of like, because doing side quests levels up the area, which lets you buy more things. And actually, if you level up the area enough that you can buy all the things in a store, one of each thing, at least once of each thing the store sells, you can then buy a deed that makes you own the store. And the deed will give you some special bonus, like in gameplay. So, like one of the stores I own gives me, I think it's like a couple feet extra radius of pickup ability. So I can pick up coins and loot like a little further away than I could before buying that. So there's like a lot of stuff like that, and like to get that up to that level, and also to get better prices, you complete side quests, talk to people, discover fast travel locations, and it levels up areas, development levels it calls. So there is incentive to explore, but at the same time, that takes a while. Like some of these side quests are like, bring me 5 winding gears. Well, like those winding gears, you get them through that salvage mini game I just did, which like
you'll have to play it like 100 times to get.
Well, I was save scumming it because like you can only afford so many of the cylinders that let you do that. So I would buy them and I'd save and I'd jump, and if I didn't get a winding gear, I'd reload. And there is no way to reload the save. You have to quit the app and then start it again from the menu, which is actually really fast because it's a cartridge, so it's not that bad.
Right.
But there's a lot of that going on, or at least early on before I could afford anything. And actually doing that long enough actually got me enough, because you can sell loot or you can wait for the loot to complete sets and sell them to this like other vendor. And some of the sets are worth like 20,000 gold, and like you're talking about picking up 5 gold at a time, so that's a lot of gold.
Yeah.
But it's like there's been a lot of stuff like that, and so the story is very drawn out at this point. I don't know. Like it's not on the level of the first game in any sense, and it is not on the level of Xenoblade Chronicles X in terms of giving you a world to kind of run around and explore and discover. To mitigate the fact that you have to go back to town and deal with all this anime crap. But at least it doesn't have that weird soundtrack from Xenoblade Chronicles X. They got like that. The music in Xenoblade Chronicles X was ready. I was ready to rip the speaker out of the TV at a certain point. And the music in this is actually really good. It's by Mitsuda. So the soundtrack's great. If you don't buy the game, maybe pick up the soundtrack.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to our last topic of our last regular episode of GameFace for 2017. We're going to talk about the story DLC for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's called The Champion's Ballad. I spent a good part of yesterday playing this, Matt. I think calling this story DLC is a huge misnomer.
That's kind of par for the course for this game, though.
Well,
not a lot of story in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, but there's none in this. I have not finished the DLC completely. It is really, from what I've gathered so far, is just like 15 or 20 new shrines to play through. So it starts out, you're seeing the beginning of it here. It actually starts out, if you've downloaded it, you get a message that comes in once you boot up the game. It says, hey, go to this shrine.
And this is after you've beaten the main game?
Or? You have to have beaten all four of the divine beasts, yeah, before it'll start. And I had already done that. Obviously, I had to finish the game. So I booted up, and you get a little message that says, hey, go here and put the tablet in the shrine, and it kind of kicks things off. And what happens is it starts out, you get this weapon that you're seeing right now. This weapon will one-hit kill anything. The catch is that you have 1/2 of a heart left of health. So you get one hit. So you get the weapon, they're like, you can one hit kill anything, and it has a cooldown, so you can't just like spam it or whatever. So you have to be smart about it. And then you also can only take one hit before you die. And so there's basically 4 different sections of the map that you have to go to. And you get there, and there's like a group of enemies you have to defeat first. Once you defeat the group of enemies, shrine rises up from out under the ground, and you have to complete the shrine. You have to do that 4 times. You go back. There still isn't a cinema. There's no cinema in this at all. There's no characters really in it at all. Once you defeat the 4 shrines at first, you do kind of meet a character from the campaign who just basically has some text. There's no cinemas per se with that character. And then he's like, okay, well, here's 4 more places that you need to go to and find the shrines and complete the shrines. And that's really what the DLC is.
Well, I mean, I kind of expected it in the sense that, like, you couldn't upgrade Link all the way in the vanilla game. So I figured the main thing this was going to do was add the missing shrines to let you get enough, whatever the hell that thing you used to... I've been so long since I played this, I don't even remember what you get.
Well, it was crazy. I had not played this game. It said, when I booted it up, it said over 6 months or whatever. I think
my last save was March 31st.
Yeah. That's how long it's been.
Because I did boot this up when the DLC went live, and I looked at all the quests that popped up, and I just turned it off. I was like, I got it.
It took me a little while.
I just watched 3 hours of the Game Awards. I'm tired.
Yeah, it took me a little while to remember how to play the game.
Yeah.
Like, I'd forgotten, like, all the button combinations and everything. It probably took me about 35 or 40 minutes to kind of get back into the groove with it, which isn't that bad. But yeah, it's basically just 16 new shrines to complete. And there aren't really any new mechanics or abilities that you get other than, I said, that weapon. Because once you complete those first 4 shrines, the weapon isn't a part of it anymore. You go back and you have your normal health and all that kind of stuff again.
Well, eventually you get the motorcycle, right? If you do everything. Because Link riding a magic horse motorcycle, that makes sense. But playing as a girl, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah. But even when you're playing through these shrines, though, you can only take 1 hit and you die. So, like, in this particular thing you're seeing right here, like, if one spike hits you, you die. You're done. And you'll have to go back out.
There's no way to get more health?
No. Even if you eat food, it just doesn't count. There's no way to get more than half. Like, it's a quarter heart, not even a half a heart. So if you touch anything that's a danger or a spike, you die immediately. You have to start the whole shrine over again. And that holds true with, like, because a lot of times you have to defeat this group of enemies before the shrine will appear. You take one hit from any of those enemies, you die. And it can be a little infuriating to, like, take out, like, 10 or 15 enemies and have some guy come up to you and just, like, stick you with a pole. And you just die immediately, have to start it all over again. But it doesn't introduce really any new weapons or abilities or anything like that that kind of gives it more of a motivation to play. Because, look, I didn't 100% this game. There are literally probably 300 shrines or whatever that I have yet to play that I just got tired of playing the game and didn't go back and finish them. Here's 16 more. You know, is that going to motivate you to go back and play this? I don't know.
You don't get any more like story or backstory about any of the champions or anything like that?
No, man. Like there was some banter.
Because the trailer really seems to kind of play them up.
I know, dude. It seemed like there was going to be like all these cinemas and cutscenes. There was nothing. Like most of it's all done with text. There's a couple like environmental pans.
Forgot how to fix stuff up there.
Yeah,
I did that too. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, I had forgotten how to play almost all of the game. To be honest with you, it took me a little while to get back into the groove. But, yeah, I mean, I already had the code. I thought I was going to have to pay for it. And when I booted up the game, it just started downloading it automatically. So I think whatever code Nintendo gave me back in the day just...
Must have been everything.
Yeah, it gave me everything. But yeah, that's pretty much all it is. I am disappointed. You're right, because the trailers that they put out for this, it seemed like it was like, okay, we're getting the whole band together or whatever, and it's like going to be this epic quest, and it's really not. It's just like, hey, here's 4 spots on the map, go find them. And then you find those, and you complete those, and then you go back and talk to somebody else, and he's like, hey, here's 4 more. And you go back and you complete, and it's just this cycle until you finish them all, and then you get the
bomb arrows. Cool.
Yeah, that chest, I got bomb arrows. I mean, look, I had fun with it because I hadn't played Breath of the Wild in a long time, so I did have fun, kind of going back and just playing through some shrines again.
Yeah. I mean,
it wasn't bad.
It seems like it's nice, like if you haven't played the game yet. Like, it feels like maybe it completes it more.
It does, but I mean, there's so much content in the game already. It's like, I just can't imagine people needing more of this. Like, I couldn't finish it all anyway. Like, I never finished all those shrines in the first place. So, like, they're like, here's 16 more. I'm like, well, that's funny. I can see 5 out there right now that I never completed the first time I played the game. So, I mean, I think really it is for the people who completed it 100% and just want more of the game. There's a nice little reward for people that do it, but
I'm glad to have it in the sense that it was bugging me that I didn't have those last couple of hearts, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you're right, though. This will give you, like, that, for the completionist, it'll give people, like, that closure.
Because there weren't enough shrines to fully upgrade Link until now.
Right, and now there are, and everyone can complete their collection, so to speak, complete Link, so to speak. For that group of people, you're absolutely right. Like, there's some value in it. But I think if you're somebody like me who played the game for 50 hours instead of 100 and played it enough so that you didn't have to torture yourself to finish the game and finish the final boss, I don't think there's all that much value in it, to be perfectly honest. Because you've already made the decision that you had enough of it. Here's more of it, is basically what it is. So... again, I had fun. I enjoyed the time I spent playing it, but it also made me realize a lot of the things I didn't like about the game in the first place. And it also, I will say, in a lot of ways, I'm glad I went back and played it again before next week's episode, because Game of the Year's coming up, and, like, you know, time has a way of either flavoring your opinion for the positive or the negative. And I honestly would say that over the last 9 months or whatever, my opinion of this game has gone up. Even though now, in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's better than I thought it was. Because so many people told me how good it was, and I was like, okay, I just didn't get it. But now that I've gone back and played it again, I see all the stuff that I didn't like about it. And I'm also playing Horizon Zero Dawn, and I'm comparing this game to Horizon, and you look at, like, the DLC for Horizon compared to this DLC, it's like night and day. So... yeah, I mean, look, if you've already got the season pass, you're playing.
You're in, yeah.
As far as I don't know if you can even buy this separately.
I don't think you can.
You can't. I think you have to buy the whole season pass.
And to be honest, if you're
it.
gonna spend money, like you're gonna want was in the first bundle anyway, because the quality of life improvements, at least with the map and stuff, are I think are essential once you get enough of the game finished.
Look, you're absolutely right. I mean, that is one thing I also noticed was I hadn't played since all those little things came out. So it was cool to kind of experience all this stuff that like they had put in the game since I played it. And you're right, a lot of it probably should have been in the game from the beginning. It wasn't, but at least they did work to get it in ultimately.
Mm-hmm. At least they let us buy things that completed the game later.
Yeah. And look, it is a better game now than it was when it came out.
Yeah. I mean, I feel a little bit about that with the fact that there weren't enough shrines to upgrade Link.
Yeah.
And I think the game should have been complete when it came out.
I agree.
And these should have been bonus.
I mean, they're basically saying, like, you want to complete the game as a completionist.
Yep.
You're going to have to buy the season pass. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty crazy. It's also weird that they're not selling it a la carte, that you can't pick what...
Yeah, I don't know what that's about. I thought they were going to do that, but maybe that comes later. I
think, honestly, you're paying the $20 for this. Is what it really comes down to. Those other updates are like, they're pretty insignificant. There's like the master whatever.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the saddle that lets you summon the horse wherever you are is pretty, or the whichever that is. There's some item you get that lets you summon the horse wherever you are.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's pretty good. And the thing
something that probably should have been.
Yeah. And the little thing you can drop that gives you an instant fast travel point wherever you are, you can travel back to it. Again, should have been in the main game.
Yeah.
But like. Those are essential quality of life upgrades, especially once you've played this game for like 50 hours and you just need to get some stuff done.
Yeah. So I guess that's my recommendation. If you're someone who 100%ed what you could of this when it came out, buy it, play it, you're going to love it. If you're someone who finished the game, beat the end boss, and was like, I'm not going back and doing more, it's really not worth buying. Because you're just adding 16 more shrines onto the 50 or whatever you had left to complete in the first place that you weren't interested in completing. So, I don't know. I definitely expected a lot more out of this than what I got out of it. And even, like, I would say some of the shrines aren't even, like, the best shrine, some of the better shrines in the game despite all this time. And I kind of thought that the shrines might incorporate some stuff in them that I hadn't really... fiddle around with before, but it's all just kind of the same stuff. Like,
I mean, I definitely.
Hey, here's a pool of water. You can't get up there. You create an ice block. I mean,
I definitely expected it to be those shrines, but I thought there would be more to it.
Context and story. Yeah, very little. So
I thought there'd be like a reason those shrines weren't there. You know,
right?
But
no, I mean,
apparently the guy with the accordion just didn't tell you about them yet.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you go to the locations and you kill the monsters, and then they just come up out of the dirt. There you go.
All right.
So there you have it. My take on the first ever Legend of Zelda story DLC. First time we've ever got anything like that for a Zelda game, which is pretty crazy to think about. But hopefully they'll do better next time. Obviously, most people are complaining it was just given Game of the Year by, like, and it's going to be given Game of the Year by God knows how many publications. I'm guessing about 75% of all publications.
All of them plus 2.
Yeah.
Unless you're PC only, I guess.
Right. PC Gamer, no.
Like
RPS,
rock, paper, shotgun, yeah.
They may even try to find a way.
Maybe not Eurogamer.
Or
I feel like,
oh, no. Dude, Eurogamer, signed, sealed, delivered Breath of the Wild. Oh, my God, dude. Eurogamer is the world's biggest Nintendo fan site.
Well, then Polygon will pick some twee thing that isn't mainstream that they can...
Or Polygon will find something to piss people off.
Right.
That seems to be what it does. It's like a troll
They'll
website.
give it to Night in the Woods, or they'll give it to the Tomorrow Children, a game that came out in 2016 and you can't even play anymore. So no one can ever prove them wrong.
I wouldn't know. I'm banned from Polygon. All right. It's time for our trailer of the week, folks. Obviously, this was an amazing week for trailers. In fact, I love that damn Death Stranding trailer so much, I even thought about running it anyway, but no.
We don't have 9 minutes.
Yeah.
Come on.
We also needed to use a lot of trailers for B-roll on the show. So, the trailer that I chose for this week is a clever trailer from Bethesda that Matt said before the show he feels like is Bethesda's way of saying, buy our games.
You dicks. I mean, because it's true. Like, they put out some really quality single-player stuff this year, and nobody cared.
Yeah, Bethesda's had a rough year.
Yeah.
I wonder.
You got Prey, and you got Wolfenstein, and you got
And
other
none
one,
of them have done great.
What's that other
And they
one?
got all the
I
VR
forgot
stuff
'em.
that's coming out.
But like, I mean, Prey is criminally underrated at this point.
Well, I don't think it's underrated. Under-purchased.
Underknown.
Yeah.
Under-talked about, I guess.
Yeah, and you have Dishonored 2 that
Dishonored 2
did terrible. Yeah. It's been a tough year for Bethesda.
What was the Death of the Outsider or whatever that was?
Yeah, they're the DLC for Dishonored 2. Although they tried to act like it was standalone.
Kind of a standalone, yeah.
I guess. It's still Dishonored 2 to me. Same engine, same everything. So yeah, it's been a rough year for Bethesda. And Bethesda is striking back with a brand new hashtag campaign called Save Player One. So it stars Linda Carter. For you young bucks, you may not realize she was the original Wonder Woman on television back in the day. And I might add, was one of my very first crushes as a young lad. I have a feeling a lot of people around my age had some funny feelings over Linda Carter back in the 70s and 80s, and I was definitely one of them. So don't forget, get your questions into the chat right now. @Sifted Games will help us pluck them out of all the madness. So here it is, Save Player One trailer from Bethesda.
Every hour around the globe, neglected gamers feel lonely, shunned by their multiplayer counterparts. But here at Bethesda, we are working toward a solution. We make all sorts of games, but single-player experiences are a big part of our DNA. Hi, I'm Linda Carter. You may remember me from such performances as the lounge singer in Fallout 4, or this other project where I played a woman of wonder, a really wonderful woman, you know. Anyway, let's forget about that. Today I'm here to talk to you about something serious. The need to save single-player gamers. Everyday gamers in search of a single-player experience are left behind. Forgotten, neglected. Many were rescued and found their way into amazing adventures, but others, well, they weren't as fortunate. For the price of just a few Nuka-Cola Quantums, you can share the fun of an epic single-player journey today. Together, we can end the pain for single-player gamers in need. Right? We work together.
Yeah. So somebody pointed out the other game that Bethesda put out that did not do well is The Evil Within 2. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. That's an entire year of underperforming games.
Yeah, if it's not called Fallout or Elder Scrolls, forget it. I guess.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they should worry more about the new Elder Scrolls game that people have been begging them for the last, 3 years. Mm-hmm. It's like, how many more times can you repackage Skyrim?
At least one,
yeah.
I would think.
Guess so. All right, let's get to some questions. There's already a bunch in our chat. W. Matthew, who has always asked great questions. MPD confirmed that Battlefront's 2 sales are way down compared to Battlefront 1 and Call of Duty World War II. Looks like the online complaining seem to have impacted. What do you think? Yeah, so sales of Battlefront 2 are 1 million less than they were at the same time for the first game.
Which we may recall I called last week.
Yeah, because that was part of Fantasy or Reality.
High-low or
high-low.
Reality,
I can't remember which one it was.
Remember.
Yeah.
But no, so I expect, even without the loot box controversy, I think this was going to sell lower because the Star Wars hype is not at a fever pitch, not yet. I mean, the advertisements for the Last Jedi content might help that as the movie becomes, a big thing next week, dominates pop culture next week probably. But I think a lot of the people that bought Battlefront 1 and made it a hit are Star Wars fans who just wanted to play a Star Wars game, and they have a Star Wars game.
They
don't need to go pay $60 to buy another game that looks exactly like the one they already have.
Because you're right, they're not, like I said, my one friend actually is jumping in and getting it. But you're right, most people got their Star Wars game, and they're not gamers, so per se.
Yeah, because
they're not like us. They're like the people who watch GameFace.
Right. So the people I know who are Star Wars fans who are interested in Battlefront 2 asked me, but I had no idea that this loot box thing was even a thing.
Right.
They always want to know whether they should buy this or whether it was the same game they already had. They literally asked me, is it the same game I already have?
Like, well, that's what the perception of video
games is.
There's
a 2 on the other end of it, so of course it's not the same game you already have. It's like, but they think of it like Madden.
No, I think a lot of more casual players look at games that way. They're like, you know what? I can buy one in this whole franchise, and I'm good.
Yeah. So I think while the loot box thing did impact sales, to people like us, I think you're talking about a couple 100,000 there.
Yeah.
I think the big chunk of that lower sales is because it's the same game again for the same systems that looks very much like what people already own. And, the Star Wars was back. Oh my God, it's back. Oh my God, Star Wars hype was 2015, and that's not here right now.
Yeah.
And the Call of Duty thing, I think there's a different audience. I don't think that's the same people. So like the Call of Duty sales are stronger because
I don't think it's like taking away from
no,
Battlefront.
I don't think those
or
are the same
anything.
people.
Yeah.
I think there's a different crowd.
Yep.
And I think that crowd, the thing about the Call of Duty crowd is I think they have learned to buy what they are sure they want.
Yep.
And clearly that was not Infinite Warfare. And this time they liked what they saw. I think that's a different audience. So like you can't judge that. But I do think Battlefront was going to be lower anyway. I think if the loot box thing hadn't been there, I think they would have broken 1 million, at least. They would have been up in the 1.1 million range.
It's only like 880K or
882,000
Yeah.
for the first month, which is that's low.
Which is still, by most game standards, would be like,
good,
woohoo! They'd be dancing in the streets.
Right, but it's like, this is I mean, when you sold
Yeah.
1.8 million the last time
Yeah,
out, that's
it's
a
crazy.
massive drop.
For sure.
So I think it's a combination of the loot box controversy plus like the iron's just not hot there right now. And
Which is shocking, because the movie's like a week away.
Yeah, but then this November was a much bigger movie November than
I also feel like
2015.
the marketing for the new film I haven't been inundated with it yet.
Well, that's because basically you couldn't flood that too much because you had Thor, and Disney had to
Right.
make money on Thor. Disney's
Right.
still the distributor for both these movies. Justice League took up a chunk of that. Then you got Coco, another Disney movie they want families to go to before Star Wars comes out.
Right.
Like, there's a lot more happening movie-wise in November this year than there was November 2015.
I'm guessing tomorrow during NFL football.
Oh, they're gonna blitz
I'm just
it.
going to get bombarded with it, which
Oh,
I am
yeah.
100% okay with.
The Blitz is on.
Yeah.
And it's not on the field.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be big. And then like the Last Jedi content's hitting Battlefront 2, and you saw ads for that during the Game Awards. I think you're going to start seeing it during NFL games and such. And as people see the movie and go, oh yeah, I want to play it, like that, you might see some things pick up a little bit. But I think I stand by my claim that Battlefront 2 is going to sell significantly less than Battlefront 1. If people want,
I think you're on track.
if people
That's
want to
for sure.
pretend that that's because loot boxes, fine. I don't think that's correct. But
I
like,
think it's part of it.
it's
but-
part of it, but I don't think it's the majority of it. It certainly didn't help
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah, people with fence sitters are probably the ones that are like,
Yeah, I mean, and it might have also been a combination in a lot of cases. I'm sure it's like, maybe you've got a guy who's, a casual fan, maybe like, oh, maybe I should, calls up his gaming buddy and is like,
that's just what happened to me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
should
my
I get this? I don't know if I want that. And they'll be like, loot boxes, and like, that's
my
the end of
buddy's
that,
wife texted me, and like, trust me, when I go home for the holidays and hang out with him, he will have played it already, and he will not mention loot boxes at all.
He won't even know they're
He
there.
won't even know that they're there. He'll be like, "Oh, I got free stuff, cool."
Yeah.
Like,
the
he
one
doesn't
thing
care.
I will say is I am surprised and pleased that the free expansion content includes more campaign.
Yeah.
I did not expect that to be a thing.
Yep. Well, now they're trying to like put some salve on the wound.
Right.
They're going to do whatever they can. Like they're saying now that the loot boxes may never come back.
Never come back. Yeah.
Which would probably be a smart move. All right, let's see what else we got here, sifters. Dan Boy 90. What are both your plans over the holidays after the low-key Thanksgiving? Get a little personal here.
Usual Christmas stuff.
Are you
Not really
staying
sure.
here or are you going up north?
I'll probably be going up north at least briefly.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
So this will be, so I'm going home for Christmas, I always do, back to central Pennsylvania. I'll probably go to Philadelphia for a little bit this holiday season because, as I've talked about before, a really close friend of mine passed away recently, and I'm kind of concerned about his wife and kids over the holidays. So I'm going to try to go spend a little bit of time with them, maybe take them out to dinner, take his sons out to do something fun maybe. Then I have other family that live on the western side of Pennsylvania. I'll have to see them as well. And then the most important thing is that this is my 10th wedding anniversary coming up. My wife and I got married on December 28th, and it will be 10 years this December. So I'm very happy and proud about that. I cannot believe it's been 10 years, but it has. So
You got married back east, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in
'Cause
Hershey, Pennsylvania.
That's right. because I couldn't get there.
Yep.
That's right.
Hershey, PA. We had
It smells like chocolate.
It does, yeah. We actually had like their mascots at our wedding. Like a Mr. Goodbar came to our wedding, and like a Hershey's Kiss came to our wedding, and we're like out on the dance floor, like breakdancing and everything. It was fun. So yeah, I have a crazy. I mean, the other thing too is I never have vacation, so I have to try to squeeze everything into like 8 or 9 days. It's going to be nuts, but I'm really excited about it. So thanks for asking. Hope you guys all have a great and safe holiday season as well.
Is there going to be a lot of snow usually?
Yeah, there's usually snow there when we go. If not, it's bone chilling cold at the very least. But usually,
I wasn't sure if it was one of those places where like the snow doesn't happen until like early.
No, it snows there. Yeah, I mean, we get a white Christmas 2 out of every 3 years probably. But even if it's not snowing, it's bone ass cold.
Right.
I'm gonna freeze my LA butt off out there. Let's see. Erebus Jones, Shane, have you dropped off COD World War II? Or are you still playing it in short spells? I have not played it here for about a week and a half, but I'll get back to it. I'll keep playing it. Kevin Roth, could Activision ever release Call of Duty in a different month than November? Nope.
No. I mean, they could, but
they could. It would
won't.
be a huge mistake, and they know it, and they won't.
They
Everybody knows.
have conditioned that audience to know that's when it happens. And
Everybody knows. First week in November, COD week, period. Yeah. And Activision knows it, and they know it, and yeah, they're never going to abandon that unless they have a disastrous development cycle and the game isn't done in time.
Yeah, I just don't.
Which I don't see.
They're kind of a finely tuned machine.
It's a machine.
At this point.
Yeah. So I don't see that ever happening. Let's see what else. Thanks for the anniversary wishes, everybody. I appreciate it. Let's scroll up a little bit here and see if there's some other ones. The Legacy. What is your take on the Kotaku story about Wolfenstein's difficulty and the backlash it has received? FYI, Fincher is directing World War Z 2.
Oh,
so there's a sequel coming, Matt.
That is a hard pass.
Yeah, sure, that'll make you real happy.
Not a David Fincher fan.
I think the article that he's referring to, I didn't think it was Kotaku, though. I thought it was another publication. Basically, one of their writers, and I'm assuming this is what he's talking about, writers wrote that he played it on easy, and he finally enjoyed it playing it on this easiest difficulty setting. And people went after him, saying, if you can't be a journalist reviewing games if you have to play a game on easy to enjoy the game.
Now we're back on this Cuphead thing again?
Kinda, yeah.
I didn't play it on easy, but I know a few people I know. There are a few people I know who are not bad at games by any means, and they switched to easy and had a much better time playing it because it is a hard game. As games go, it is hard, and part of that is because it doesn't do a very good job of giving you feedback on when you're getting hit.
Yeah.
And
in the early going, it's so easy to die. Like literally a couple bullets and you're dead, and
it's also kind of like the game feels like it kind of encourages the rah, dual wield go crazy thing, and then like if you do that, you're basically going to get your ass killed.
No, you're right. I think it is like a contradiction of the game's messaging versus what you need to do to be successful at the game.
I mean, I didn't find it that difficult, but I've run into enough people that I know are not bad at things that are like, oh, I thought that was really hard. That like it must be harder than normal for a lot of people.
Some parts aren't that hard, but then there's just these certain sections, like the one section that I played on the Patreon drive stream. It's just this one room where you got drones flying on the outside and like literally a room flooded with like 16 guys. And I'm like, okay, I could basically get hit by literally probably like 4 or 5 bullets before I'm dead. And so I'm like, how do I manage 16 guys, these drones? How can I find a place where I'm not going to get hit 4 times?
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, it's.
But there's something to be said for games like that too.
Yeah,
it all depends on what you like. It's like
I forgot what I was going to say about that, but.
And I found like a corner where I could basically hide, where I could only have enemies coming from like this much.
The other thing is like, they did a good job making the enemies unpredictable. They don't do the same thing over and over again.
You're right.
But that also makes those bottlenecks harder because you can't
rely
on anything to be the way it is.
And flying enemies in shooters are just always a pain in the butt. And those things go like this, and then they go like this, and then they go like this, and you're worried about them while you've got like 10 dudes rushing in on you. Like I said, there's something to be said for games like that, where you have to really just knuckle down and get it done. And it was rewarding when I finally beat that level, I'll say that much. And I think it's that whole struggle versus reward thing that we've talked about with Bloodborne and
I also
all
think
that
there's an
stuff.
element of like, I don't think that game gives you enough, and I don't have a problem with it really, but I don't think that game gives you enough feedback when you're getting low on life.
Yeah.
And I think we're used to kind of the Call of Duty thing where, the
It gets all
the
red
irising of the
and-
lens,
yeah.
everything is red. In fact, Agents of Mayhem just in one of their recent updates they had the same problem. Like, you would get real low on health, and there was no indication beyond the number, basically, or the bar or whatever, that would tell you you're about to die. And so they added kind of, the red, the red, like, pulsing thing or whatever to give you a better visual. And I think we've been, and maybe this is the fault of modern game design, but I think we've been conditioned over the last 10, 15 years to kind of stop looking at the HUD
No, you're right.
on a regular basis.
Yeah, I don't look at my health
Yeah,
anymore.
it's not I like to play the old Doom game where you have to keep checking the guy's
Right.
face to see if he's too bloody or not, or if he's happy.
Right.
It's like, it's not, we don't do that anymore because we
Yeah.
just assume the game's
enough
ambiance is
tactile
going to give it.
feedback
Yeah,
to let
and,
you know,
and
yeah.
then Wolfenstein 2 doesn't do that.
It's old school in a number of ways, ultimately. And I think some people will appreciate that about it, and I think some people maybe who only been playing games for the last 10 years or so, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was like, oh, okay, I got to pay attention to the health on this. I learned that, but I totally understand where people would be like, why should I have to keep looking at that number when the game could easily just tell me through an effect that I need to be careful now.
We should answer the question, though, because this journalist has been getting lit up over this. And look, my opinion is they should just leave him alone. Just because he enjoyed himself more playing a difficult game on easy does not mean he or she, I don't even know whether it's a guy or a girl, he or she is worthy of reviewing games or not.
Yeah, I mean, all you have
That's
to do
insane.
is tell me that, and I have information about the game. That's the point. You're supposed to give me information about the game and your experience playing it. Whether you're good at it doesn't matter. And in fact, the fact that you maybe aren't good at it is also still valuable information.
Right, it could be valuable to someone else who is also not good at shooters. So maybe
But is interested in the premise.
because you're right. I mean, that game's been marketed as this run and gun, let's
Yeah.
go. But you really can't play the game like that.
You can't play that game like Duke Nukem.
No,
It doesn't work
But
that
that's
way.
how the marketing for
Right.
that game has been. It's just lock and load and mow.
Well,
and
also,
that's not
I mean,
how you play it.
It's how the premise makes you feel like you. I mean, it's Nazis. You want to just
you want to mow them
away.
down.
It's like so.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a maybe I guess you'd call it a tone problem to some
Yeah.
degree. But I get where they're coming from. I don't think that if you want to play it on easy, as long as you tell me you did,
Right.
I'm fine with that.
Yep. It's I always play on normal. Always. You always know I'm going to play on normal. And my opinions always come from normal. All right, maybe one more. What's that shirt you're wearing? Dag Nasty. It's a hardcore band from. I see somebody else answered you already. It's a hardcore band from Washington D.C. from my early skate days. One of my favorite hardcore bands of all time. Actually, just saw them in L.A. with our buddy Corb and Jason Chung this past weekend. So love them. If you guys like punk, hardcore music, check them out. They're one of the best ever. Let's see if we can find one more gaming question. They're surprised you're not a Fincher fan.
I think Zodiac's a great movie. Everything else he makes, I find mediocre to terrible.
No. Okay, here's last thing we'll talk about before we move on. So I don't know if you saw this or not, but Marcus and Colin Moriarty have been going at it, hardcore on Twitter. And as a
arguing, not
Yes.
making out.
no, no, going after each other,
Okay.
tooth and nail going after each other. And then a subtext to that is Colin has invited me on his show to record this coming week. And Marcus he just unloaded on him, and you can guess the type of things that Marcus said to him because they have different political ideologies. And Marcus went after him, too. And Marcus was kind of the one who started the whole thing, and then they just started going back and forth in his
He's
turn.
a salty Welshman. That's what they do.
Yeah.
That's what we love about him.
Yeah, so I am going to go on Colin's show, by the way. I know there's a big dust up with Brandon Jones going on his show, and some of his patrons were like, "Oh, we're gonna bail if you go on the show." I think that's insane. I feel like you should separate politics from video game discussion. And one thing I would say about Colin is that he and I are kind of the same in a lot of ways when we talk about games, because both of us kind of have the ability to find the faults in games. We're not afraid to talk about them. We're kind of old school journalists in that way. we're not kind of a part of the new like influencer thing where everything's awesome and we're going to find something good to say about this game no matter what, and we're going to leave out the flaws in our discussion. I mean, both of us kind of do that. We're both that way. And Colin's that way. And I think that's why he was kind of a square peg in a round hole at Kind of Funny, is because those guys on Kind of Funny, I mean, people like that style of games coverage, and I totally get it. But they're almost always universally positive. They're always trying to find a positive angle. They're never really looking for issues or concerns.
It's not criticism what they do. It's
really not.
It's enthusiast.
Yeah, which is
opinion,
totally fine.
Feedback. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not criticizing them for how they do their coverage. It's great. Obviously, it's working for them. They're crazy successful. But I'm a lot like Colin in how he evaluates games, and I feel like it would be an interesting discussion for us to talk about that and whatever else he comes up with. So I'm going to do a show. Mark, and so I had made the decision to do the show already, and then Marcus and him starts getting into it, and I'm like, okay, and I don't even know what to make of it. It's like, to me, I can separate someone's political beliefs from discussing video games. It doesn't need to come into it at all. And I understand, like, the political climate right now is very divisive, and people have kind of chosen sides, and it's like us against them, no matter which side you're on. But when I'm talking about video games, it isn't an us versus them thing. It's just us talking about video games. So, look, if Colin starts talking about politics on the episode I'm on, then there might be an issue, but I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't think it is. I think we're going to talk about games. We're going to talk about Patreon. We'll probably talk about the Game Awards or Game of the Year or whatever. So, I'm doing the show. Marcus may hate me for doing it. I don't know. But I am going to go and talk to Colin about video games. So, there you have it. Let's see. Anything left to wrap up before we go? Again, our last regular episode of the show for the year. We just selected this month's loot box winner. We just selected the next contestant on Beat Shane. Those are surprises. I know we selected the loot box winner on the show. We got a lot of complaints about that last time. It took too long and it was awkward and whatever. So I just did it on my own and reached out to them. So the loot box is going out. The next Beat Shane contestant is coming in. I'm not going to tell you who it is or what we're playing, but we're lining it up right now to do that next week. And otherwise, yeah, I think that's it, man. It's been a great year at GameFace. Next week, we'll be back probably on Friday at our usual Friday 1 o'clock time for our Game of the Year awards. So I'm going to try to dedicate a lot of time to playing games, getting at least 15 to 20 hours in on Horizon, I promise you. So that's it. Everybody have a great week, and GameFace is up and out.